Chapter 1963. In the void turbulence, Lu Ming would be fine as long as he avoided the dark vortex. After moving forward for a while, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and stopped. Many figures appeared in front of him. At first glance, there were about a dozen people, but the void turbulence blocked his vision. Lu Ming could not see the specific appearance of the other party. Obviously, the other party had also noticed him. The other party paused for a moment and continued to move forward. Soon, the figures in front of him became clear. Luo Pokong. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Among the dozen people, he saw Luo Pokong and another familiar figure, Feng Wuchen of the Feng clan. At the same time, Luo Pokong and Feng Wuchen also saw him. Luo Pokong was stunned at first. His opponent's eyes lit up and emitted a cold, murderous intent. He shouted, "Lu Ming, it's you. Don't let him go. Surround him." Whoosh! Whoosh! Beside Luo Pokong and Feng Wuchen, figures flashed and surrounded Lu Ming. Powerful auras locked onto Lu Ming. Quasi-emperors were all experts of the quasi-emperor realm. Obviously, those who could step into the void turbulence were quasi-emperors, unless they had emperor weapons like Luo Pokong and Feng Wuchen. These were obviously the quasi-emperors of the Daluo Heaven sect and the Feng clan. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, I didn't expect to meet you here. This void turbulence will be your burial place. Luo Pokong laughed wildly. He had been defeated by Lu Ming several times. He wished he could kill Lu Ming. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying and there were too many geniuses around him. Back then, even Luo Zhangqiong was defeated by Lu Ming. Even Xinghe could not kill Lu Ming. In the Yuan Mountain Saint Academy, he had no chance at all. But here, beside him and Feng Wuchen, there were more than a dozen quasi-emperors. Lu Ming was doomed. Lu Ming frowned. Even if he and Bubbles joined forces, they might not be able to win against more than a dozen quasi-emperors. Kill! Lu Ming suddenly moved, striking first to gain the upper hand. Together with Bubble, he rushed to the right. Bubble waved her hand, and two transparent bubbles enveloped the two quasi-emperors in front. Then Lu Ming jabbed out two fingers, and the primal chaos tribulation finger exploded, bombarding the two quasi-emperors. Although the two boundary emperors tried their best to block, they were still severely injured. Their bodies flew out like cannonballs, and their bodies almost exploded. The two quasi-emperors were sent flying, and a hole appeared in the encirclement. Lu Ming continued to move forward, but at this time a figure caught up to Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed. His iron fist was like a mountain as it smashed towards Lu Ming. The iron fist punched out, and the turbulent void was dispersed, revealing a vacuum passageway. Lu Ming's expression changed. What a terrifying punch! Hell suppressing heaven skill! At the critical moment, Lu Ming circulated the suppressing hell heavenly art and punched out. Boom! The two fists collided, and Lu Ming felt an extremely terrifying force surging towards him. Lu Ming felt his arm go numb, and he couldn't help but retreat. This person is very strong. Looking at the middle-aged man in front of him, Lu Ming's heart sank slightly. This man's combat strength was extremely shocking, far surpassing that of other quasi-emperors. This person's spiritual body is extraordinary. It's a superior heaven spiritual body. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Of course, there were strong and weak quasi-emperors. Generally, Lu Ming was not afraid of those who broke through to the quasi-emperor realm with an earth spiritual body. He could even defeat and kill them. However, if one broke through to the quasi-emperor realm with a heaven spiritual body, their combat strength would undoubtedly be much stronger. And this man in front of him had broken through to the quasi-emperor realm with a superior heaven spiritual body. Such a person was already a top genius when he was young. He was only slightly weaker than a king body, and his combat strength was extremely shocking. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he was no match for him. Boom! This man stepped out again and charged towards Lu Ming. Chirp, chirp, Bubble waved his hands, and endless void turbulence surged towards this person. However, this person's combat strength was indeed shocking. His fists constantly punched out, and his iron fists were like mountains, breaking the void turbulence one by one. Bubble, don't fight this person head-on. Go from the other side. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubble. The two of them moved and rushed to the other side. At this time, the other quasi-emperors also attacked Lu Ming and the others. More than a dozen terrifying super skills drove the void turbulence and flooded towards Lu Ming and the others. The light of space-time appeared on Bubble's body. He waved his hands, and the space-time turbulence rolled back and blasted towards the opponents. Lu Ming's figure moved and rushed towards a quasi-emperor. With a press of his hands, 9 prison-suppressing steels appeared and suppressed this person. This person roared and tried his best to resist, but he was still forced to retreat. Then, endless runes appeared on Lu Ming's left hand and used the power of sealing to seal this person. Meanwhile, his right hand pointed out with all his strength. A chaotic tribulation finger blasted towards this person. Kill! At this time, the others, including the quasi-emperor with the superior heavenly spiritual body, also attacked Lu Ming and the others. Big brother Lu Ming, leave it to me. Chirp, chirp. Bubble charged out, and her small mouth pouted continuously. 10-odd transparent bubbles appeared and encased the 10-odd quasi-emperors in them. The quasi-emperors froze at the same time and burst out with power to attack the transparent bubbles. And that burly man's combat strength was indeed shocking. He blasted out a few punches in succession and shattered the transparent bubbles. However, this delay had given Lu Ming enough time. That quasi-emperor was sealed by Lu Ming's sealing power. Then the chaotic tribulation finger descended, and this quasi-emperor screamed miserably as half of his body exploded. Swish! However, Lu Ming did not give him any chance to react. The Taiji disc flew out from his forehead, and 2 yin-yang fish swords shot out and slashed down, killing this person. Damn it, a bunch of trash! Luo Pokong roared in the distance. 10-odd quasi-emperors besieged Lu Ming and the other quasi-emperors. To think that one of them was killed by Lu Ming. This was a disgrace. Use the emperor weapon to block this little girl. Leave Lu Ming to me. That burly middle-aged man roared. I'll do it. A quasi-emperor of the wind race waved his hand, and a small pagoda appeared. Then it rapidly enlarged like a mountain. Boundless strong winds howled as it enveloped Bubble like a cage. At the same time, that burly middle-aged man charged at Lu Ming with all his strength. His punches were horrifying. Every punch made the void tremble violently. Lu Ming jabbed out a few times in succession. However, after the chaotic tribulation finger clashed with the other party, it crumbled. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. On the other side, Bubble dodged left and right, dodging the huge pagoda. However, the other party had too many quasi-emperors. 10-odd quasi-emperors locked onto all directions and continuously attacked. They used a barbaric and direct method to block Bubble's retreat. There were even 2 quasi-emperors who took out their emperor weapons to block Bubble's retreat. For a time, Bubble was trapped and could not help Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming controlled the Taiji disc to suppress the burly middle-aged man. At the same time, the great pale derivation furnace appeared and rapidly enlarged, smashing towards the other party. I also have an emperor weapon. Chapter 1964. Clang! The Taichi array disc was sent flying back. Then, the giant hammer landed on the great pill development cauldron. The cauldron trembled and was sent flying back. Men, help me kill Lu Ming. The middle-aged man shouted. 2 quasi-emperors charged towards Lu Ming to help him. With the help of 2 quasi-emperors, the middle-aged man became even more unscrupulous. The giant hammer was the size of a house as it smashed towards Lu Ming. Dong! Dong! Lu Ming blocked the attack with the Great Pill Development Cauldron, but the cauldron kept retreating. Whoosh, whoosh! At this moment, a terrifying whistling sound came from behind Lu Ming. A huge black vortex was slowly moving towards him. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, you're dead meat! The middle-aged man was ecstatic. Even the heavens wanted Lu Ming dead. At this moment, a black vortex moved towards Lu Ming, leaving him with no way to retreat. Chirp, chirp, Bubble cried out, wanting to help. However, there were 3 Emperor weapons blocking off the 3 directions. The other quasi-emperors continued to attack. Although Bubble's space-time laws were profound, the other party's barbaric method of disrupting the void made it difficult for Bubble to help. Bubble could only protect itself. At this moment, a pair of cold eyes were staring at Lu Ming from behind the black vortex. This person was Luo Tsangqiang. In fact, Luo Tsangqiang was with Luo Pokong and the others. It was just that he was cultivating alone in the void earlier, so Lu Ming did not notice him. He heard the commotion and rushed over, but he did not expect to see Lu Ming. He hid behind the black vortex and used the law of deprivation to form the divine seal of deprivation, constantly depriving the void of energy. The more time passed, the more energy was deprived, and the stronger the power of the divine seal of deprivation would be. By now, the divine seal of deprivation had already deprived a huge amount of energy, and its power had reached a terrifying level. Even Luo Tsangqiang was shocked. Lu Ming, I'll send you to hell with this move. Luo Tsangqiang's eyes flashed ferociously. When he saw Lu Ming being suppressed by the middle-aged man and the 2 quasi-emperors, an opening appeared. Without hesitation, Luo Tsangqiang's figure flickered and the divine seal of deprivation flew towards Lu Ming to suppress him. Luo Tsangqiang. Lu Ming was shocked. The power of the divine seal of deprivation was too shocking, even the middle-aged man's attack. At this moment, Lu Ming was trying his best to resist the attacks of the middle-aged, burly man and the other 2 quasi-emperors. He did not expect that Luo Tsangqiang would suddenly appear behind the vortex. It was too late to dodge. Qiu Yu had first entered the Yellowstone world, after exploring a few ruins in this world. She also came to the border of the Yellowstone world. She entered the chaotic streams of space, wanting to explore another world. She cultivated and walked in the void turbulence. After walking for a few days, she suddenly heard a violent roar in front of her. Autumn Moon withdrew her aura and walked forward. She saw Lu Ming fighting with someone. Just as she was about to help, she saw Luo Tsangqiang suddenly attack Lu Ming. At this moment, Qiu Yu did not hesitate and pounced forward. "Young master, be careful!" A clear and crisp voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. Then he saw a white figure dashing from one side toward the divine seal of deprivation at high speed. Autumn Moon. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then he heard a loud roar. Autumn Moon's body flew towards Lu Ming. Blood was red in the air, like a beautiful, blood-colored rose. Autumn Moon. At this moment, Lu Ming hollered. His eyes were red. Luo Tsangqiang's move was too powerful. Lu Ming knew very well that Autumn Moon would not be able to block it. Lu Ming roared and controlled the great defying cauldron with all his strength to block the attacks of the middle-aged man and the 2 quasi-emperors. He then moved and caught Autumn Moon's body. At this moment, Autumn Moon's face was pale. Blood kept flowing out of her mouth, and her aura was extremely weak. She was like a weak candle that would be extinguished at any time. Autumn Moon, it's you. How is it possible? Luo Tsangqiang roared in disbelief. Why would Qiu Yu suddenly appear and block his sure-kill move? He was stunned for a moment and forgot to attack. The middle-aged man also knew that Luo Tsangqiang had been chasing after Autumn Moon. Seeing this scene, he could not help but stop. Autumn Moon, why are you so stupid? Why did you block it for me? Lu Ming hugged Autumn Moon, and his heart was trembling. With his cultivation and physical strength, even if he took a hit, he would at most be seriously injured and might not die. However, it was different for Autumn Moon. Young master, I said that I will always be by your side. Autumn Moon spoke, but her voice was weak. Her aura was also getting weaker. Lu Ming held Autumn Moon's hand and poured his saint power into Autumn Moon's body to protect Autumn Moon's heart. But it was useless. Autumn Moon's aura was getting weaker, and her eyes slowly closed. Lu Ming, leave Autumn Moon to me. Even if she dies, she is still mine. Luo Tsangqiong said coldly. Luo Tsangqiong. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at Luo Tsangqiong. His eyes were bloodshot, and his body was filled with cold, killing intent. He was like a demon from hell. I will definitely kill you and Daluo Heaven Sect. Sooner or later, I will flatten it. Lu Ming's cold and ruthless voice came out from his mouth. Being stared at by Lu Ming's cold eyes, Luo Tsangqiong felt a chill down his spine. He shouted, "If you still want to kill me, I will let you all die here today and become a pair of lovebirds." Boom! A terrifying aura burst out from Luo Tsangqiong's body, and an imperial weapon emerged. Luo Tsangqiong was the grandson of the great emperor. The imperial weapon that he carried was given by the great emperor and was extremely terrifying. "Let's attack together and kill them." Luo Tsangqiong roared. The imperial weapon carried a terrifying aura and blasted toward Lu Ming. At the same time, the middle-aged man also attacked. The giant hammer broke through the air and charged toward Lu Ming. "Luo Tsangqiong, I will definitely kill you in the future." Lu Ming said coldly. With a thought, the great elixir development furnace did not protect him. Instead, it blasted toward Bubbles. As for himself, he took the autumn moon into the mountain river diagram. At the same time, Lu Ming used the Tai Chi formation plate and the chaotic stone to block in front of him. He quickly retreated and rushed toward the black vortex. Boom! Boom! The Tai Chi formation plate was blasted back by the middle-aged man. As for the chaotic stone, it was hit by Luo Tsangqiong's imperial weapon and flew toward Lu Ming. The terrifying power increased Lu Ming's speed. Lu Ming flew directly into the black vortex. All of a sudden, an extremely powerful force acted on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's figure disappeared into the vortex and disappeared. On the other side, the great elixir development furnace smashed down and blasted away the imperial weapon that was surrounding Bubbles. Bubbles moved and rushed out of the encirclement in an instant. He also rushed into the black vortex. "Stop that elixir furnace." Chapter 1965. Damn it! Luo Tsangqiong roared, his killing intent chilling. "Humph! Lu Ming is dead for sure after entering this black vortex." Luo Pokong stepped into the air and sneered. "That's right, he's dead for sure." The other quasi-emperors smiled as well. There was a terrifying destructive force in this black vortex that frightened them. Lu Ming would definitely die if he entered. Not necessarily. Luo Tsangqiong's face was cold as he said, "Lu Ming is very terrifying and unpredictable. Moreover, there's someone who knows the law of space with him, so he might not die." These words shook the hearts of the others. Indeed, Lu Ming was very terrifying, and there was someone who knew the law of space. Even if he entered the black vortex, he might not be in danger. In that case, it was Lu Ming who entered on his own accord. Everyone's face turned ugly, but they were not confident that they would chase after him. After all, it was dangerous and unpredictable. "Humph, Lu Ming, even if he doesn't die, I'll kill him sooner or later." Luo Tsangqiong snorted. They did not leave, but stayed to guard the place to prevent Lu Ming from coming out. Their guess was right. Lu Ming did enter the black vortex on his own accord. It was not that he did not dare to fight, as he still had a trump card if he fought with his life on the line. However, he was worried about Chiu Yu's safety. Chiu Yu's injuries were too serious, and she needed to be treated quickly, or she would be in danger. As soon as Lu Ming entered the black vortex, a terrifying destructive force surged toward him from all directions. Lu Ming activated his saint power, and at the same time, he controlled the law of chaos to cover his body to resist. Sizzle, The cutting force constantly hit Lu Ming's body, causing the law of chaos to tremble as if it was about to collapse. This cutting force is really amazing. Lu Ming activated the law of chaos with all his might to resist. At the same time, a void storm in the black vortex pushed Lu Ming into the distance aimlessly. Whoosh! Not long after, with a flash of light, Bubble appeared beside Lu Ming. Bubble was in control of space-time and had cultivated the space-time light. The void storm couldn't do anything to her. The bubble appeared beside Lu Ming and set up the laws of space and time around the two of them, blocking the void storm outside. Whoosh! In the next moment, the great pale derivation furnace also flew over and was put away by Lu Ming. Autumn moon. Lu Ming was thinking about the autumn moon. With a thought, the autumn moon came out of the mountain river diagram. At this moment, Chiu Autumn Moon was unconscious and his breathing was weak. Luo Tsangqiong's attack had been too powerful. He had hidden to the side and used the law of deprivation to absorb the energy of the outside world, accumulating a terrifying amount of power. He had originally planned to kill Lu Ming in one fell swoop. In her haste, Autumn Moon only wanted to block that attack for Lu Ming, but her injuries were too severe. Damn it! Lu Ming gritted his teeth, wishing he could turn Luo Tsangqiong into ashes. Autumn Moon, I will not let anything happen to you. Lu Ming whispered and took out a healing elixir. He melted the elixir with his saint power and melted it into Autumn Moon's body. However, Autumn Moon's injuries still did not improve. Brother Lu Ming, try the fruit of the divine tree of time. Bubble opened her mouth, and the divine tree of time appeared. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The divine tree of time originally had 2 milky white fruits. Bubble had swallowed one, and there was still one left. Since the divine tree of time could double a martial artist's lifespan, increasing one's lifespan was actually increasing one's vitality. This meant that the fruit of the divine tree of time contained a powerful vitality. This fruit might be able to save Autumn Moon. Lu Ming plucked the fruit and used his saint power to refine it into Autumn Moon's body. Sure enough, the fruit of the divine tree of time contained infinite vitality and seeped into Autumn Moon's limbs and bones. The surface injuries on Autumn Moon's body were quickly recovering, and Autumn Moon's aura also stabilized. However, she did not wake up. Brother Lu Ming, it seems that Sister Autumn Moon's injuries are too severe. Just the fruit of the divine tree of time alone can't wake her up, Bubble said after looking at Autumn Moon carefully. Lu Ming circulated his saint power and circulated it through Autumn Moon's body. After a while he sighed. Although Autumn Moon's vitality had stabilized, it was indeed easier said than done to wake her up, as Bubble had said. Lu Ming caressed Autumn Moon's face and wiped away the bloodstains on the corner of Autumn Moon's mouth. He said softly, Autumn Moon, no matter what, I won't let anything happen to you. I won't let Luo Tsangqiong and Daluo Heaven sect off. Toward the end, Lu Ming's voice turned cold, and there was a burst of cold, murderous intent. This time it was too dangerous. Fortunately, there was the fruit of the divine tree of time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unpredictable. If something happened to Autumn Moon, Lu Ming would never be at ease for the rest of his life. Autumn Moon was still the same as before. She didn't talk much and didn't ask for much. She just silently guarded Lu Ming and was willing to give up everything for Lu Ming, including her life. Lu Ming held Autumn Moon's little hand and recalled the scenes of their childhood in the sea. After a long time, Lu Ming sent Autumn Moon back into the mountain river diagram and placed her under the tree of enlightenment, hoping that it would help Autumn Moon. At this time, Lu Ming looked around. They were still in the chaotic void storm. Bubble shrouded the surroundings with the law of time and space and broke through the void storm. Bubble, how should we get out? Lu Ming asked. In terms of space, Bubble was naturally better. Brother Lu Ming, with my current cultivation, I can't break through the space by force. I need to wait. I need to find a weak point in the space and then rush out in one fell swoop. Bubble explained. Okay. Lu Ming nodded. They continued to wait while observing the surroundings, looking for an opportunity. As time passed, Bubbles' power became weaker and weaker. If this continued, when Bubbles' power was exhausted, they would also be in danger. I don't know where we are floating to. Lu-Ming pondered. It was very dangerous to float in the void like this. It would be fine if they floated to other worlds. But if they floated to the eternal void, they would die if they didn't have the cultivation of a martial emperor. Brother Lu-Ming, I've got it. Look there. Bubble suddenly pointed to the right. Lu-Ming looked over and saw some fluctuations in the void there. Let's attack with all our strength and break out. Chirp, chirp. Bubble shouted. She controlled the law of time and space and changed direction, flying toward the place where the fluctuations were coming from. Primal Chaos Calamity Finger. Lu-Ming used all his strength and pointed with a finger. Now, Lu-Ming's Primal Chaos Calamity Finger had reached 94%. When he pointed with all his strength, the power was very shocking. At the same time, Bubble also cooperated with Lu-Ming to attack the void. Boom! The void shook violently. Then, with a hiss, a crack appeared. Lu-Ming was overjoyed and rushed over with Bubble. After rushing through the crack, Lu-Ming found that he had appeared in a cave. Roar! A loud roar came from behind Lu-Ming. A fishy smell assailed his nostrils. There was also a blazing aura. Chapter 1966. Lu-Ming looked around and found a fiery red giant lizard behind him. It was staring at Lu-Ming with its eyes wide open. In front of him was the middle-aged man who was also looking at Lu-Ming in surprise. The man and the giant lizard both emitted powerful auras. They were both quasi-emperors. Lu-Ming understood from the traces at the scene. The fight between the middle-aged man and the giant lizard must have caused spatial fluctuations and weakened the space. They just happened to notice it and attacked with all their strength. With their cooperation, they broke through the space and appeared here. Roar! At this moment, the giant lizard roared, treating Lu-Ming as the middle-aged man's ally. It took a step forward, and its body emitted blazing flames. It spat out a fireball from its mouth and blasted it at Lu-Ming. Lu-Ming punched out, and a phantom of the prison-suppressing monument appeared and destroyed the giant lizard's fireball. Bang! Bang! The giant lizard stomped on the ground, and the cave rumbled as it pounced at Lu-Ming. Its sharp claws pierced through the air like divine knives. At the same time, it bit at Lu-Ming with its big fangs. You're courting death. Lu-Ming's eyes were cold. He was already full of anger, and the giant lizard attacked him as soon as it appeared. This made Lu-Ming even angrier. Boom! Boom! His saint energy surged as Lu-Ming punched out a few times and collided with the giant lizard. Although this giant lizard had the combat strength of a quasi-emperor, it was still no match for Lu-Ming in a head-on collision and was forced to retreat by Lu-Ming. Bang! Lu-Ming leaped high into the air and landed a punch on the head of the giant lizard. The giant lizard fell to the ground with a loud thud. Roar! The giant lizard's head hit the ground and let out a loud roar. Its scaly tail was like an iron whip and lashed at Lu-Ming. Lu-Ming grabbed the tail of the giant lizard and swung it up, throwing it out of the cave. Swoosh! The giant lizard was thrown out of the cave by Lu-Ming. Roar! It was at this moment that a terrifying roar came from outside the cave. This roar didn't come from the lizard, but rather it seemed to come from below the cave. The roar was so powerful that it caused Lu-Ming's eardrums to vibrate. It was as if there was a supreme demon there. Then Lu-Ming saw the giant lizard let out a terrified roar. Its body quickly fell down, as if attracted by some force. Roar! Roar! Following that, the roar continued to shake heaven and earth. Terrifying sound waves reverberated throughout the area. The middle-aged man's face was grave as he pulled away from Lu-Ming, not daring to step out. "Senior, what's that outside?" Lu-Ming asked. "I don't know." The middle-aged man shook his head. "Then where is this?" Lu-Ming asked again. "Myriad Beast Realm." The middle-aged man said. He then sized up Lu Ming and said, "You should be the son of chaos from Yuan Shan Holy Courtyard, right?" Oh, these words made Lu Ming's eyes light up. It seemed that this should be one of the 9 worlds of the Lotus World. They hadn't left too far away. At this time, the roar outside stopped. Just as Lu Ming was about to ask again, the middle-aged man rushed out of the cave and disappeared. Lu Ming was speechless. He followed him to the entrance of the cave and looked outside. His eyes couldn't help but widen. The scene outside was extremely magnificent. The place he was in was like the crater of a volcano or a huge cave that led to the underground, and his position was on one side of the wall of the cave. Looking around, the walls of the cave were densely packed with caves, and in the middle of the cave there were stone bridges that connected to each other. The cave kept going down. He didn't know how deep it was. It was pitch black below. The roar just now had come from below. Lu Ming saw the middle-aged, burly man leaping onto a stone bridge and dashing into a cave diagonally opposite, disappearing from sight. Lu Ming looked again and found that there were indeed figures flashing in some of the caves. Could this place be a relic of the myriad beast realm, and many outsiders are exploring here? Lu Ming thought. He saw figures flashing out of some of the caves. They seemed to be very cautious. They landed on those stone bridges and waited carefully for a while. Then they jumped onto a stone bridge below. Just like that, they continued to go down and explore the caves below. Roar! At this moment, another shocking roar sounded from the depths of the cave. Accompanied by the roar, a terrifying suction force came from the depths of the cave as if it was going to devour everything. Ah! A horrified scream sounded. Lu Ming saw a Saint Realm powerhouse. He happened to be in the air and didn't land on the stone bridge. He was directly swallowed by the force and disappeared into the endless abyss. Lu Ming gasped. What was down there? Even a Saint Realm powerhouse couldn't resist it. It was the same for the giant lizard from before. It was also swallowed by that force. However, Lu Ming found that those who landed on the stone bridge were fine. It seemed that the stone bridge could resist that force. No wonder those people were so careful when they jumped on the stone bridge. This place is full of danger, Lu Ming muttered. He looked around and found that there was no other exit in this cave. If he wanted to go out, he could only go through the cave in front of him. Let's rest here for now. Bubble, you should recover first, Lu Ming said to Bubble. Bubble had used the space-time laws to resist the void storm and had consumed a lot of energy. It was a good opportunity to recover and rest here. Okay, big brother Lu Ming. Chirp chirp. Bubble nodded and took out a large number of origin stones and sacred herbs to recover. Lu Ming also sat down cross-legged and swallowed origin stones to recover. Not long after, Lu Ming's condition was restored to its peak. At this moment, Lu Ming's heart moved and the Chaos Stone appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Previously, Lu Ming had used the Chaos Stone to block the attack of Luo Zhangqiong's Emperor weapon. At that time, Lu Ming had heard a faint sound. It seemed to be the sound of the Chaos Stone cracking. Lu Ming took it out and looked at it. Indeed, there was a crack on the Chaos Stone. The Chaos Stone is indestructible, but it cracked. Luo Zhangqiong's Emperor weapon is really powerful, Lu Ming thought. Then he thought that since the Chaos Stone had cracked, he might as well break it open to take a look. Immediately, Lu Ming used all the strength in his body to grab the Chaos Stone and break it open. Crack! The Chaos Stone cracked even louder, and the crack became even bigger. I can break it open. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. If not for the crack on the Chaos Stone, it would not have been possible to break it open. Lu Ming continued to use force. A moment later, the Chaos Stone was completely broken into two. Ding! Ding! Among the Chaos Stones, 2 small crystals fell to the ground. These are Chaos Crystals. Chapter 1967. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised when he opened the Chaos Gem and 2 Chaos Crystals fell out. This was because chaos crystals were formed by the condensation of chaos chi. Back when this chaos gem was auctioned, the auctioneer said that there was no chaos chi in it, which was why the price was so low. However, no one expected that it was not that there was no chaos chi in the chaos gem, but that all the chaos chi had condensed into chaos crystals. Chaos crystals were almost fused with the chaos gem. Therefore, if one did not break open the chaos gem, it would be impossible to discover them. He had made a killing, a huge killing. Lu Ming checked carefully and confirmed that there were only 2 chaos crystals in the chaos gem. Lu Ming immediately controlled the primal chaos law to envelop the 2 chaos crystals. Buzz! Buzz! When the primal chaos law enveloped the chaos crystals, the 2 chaos crystals trembled slightly and floated in the air along with the primal chaos law. Following that, the 2 chaos crystals melted like ice and turned into liquid. Finally, they turned into 2 streams of air. Chaos chi! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Back then, he had refined a stream of chaos chi into his body. Naturally, he could tell at a glance that these 2 streams of air were also chaos chi. Then I'll refine 2 more. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. With a thought, he controlled the primal chaos law and guided the chaos chi into his body. Lu Ming's body had already refined a stream of chaos chi. It was very compatible with the chaos chi, and there was no difficulty in refining it. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Bubbles had long recovered and stayed at the cave entrance to protect Lu Ming. Over the past few days, terrifying roars could be heard from the depths of the cave from time to time. It was even accompanied by the sound of metal chains colliding. It was as though a supreme great demon was chained below and was struggling to break free. Lu Ming turned a deaf ear to all of this. He focused on refining the chaos chi. In 3 days, the 2 streams of chaos chi had been completely refined into Lu Ming's body. They seeped into his muscles, bones, blood, and permeated every inch of his body. The toughness of Lu Ming's physical body had been greatly enhanced. It was much more powerful. His body seemed to have a layer of hazy light. With a thought, he became as heavy as a mountain, indestructible and indestructible. Wang. At that moment, his body seemed to resonate with the law of primal chaos. When a martial artist reached the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm, he would be able to form a vessel of laws. The laws would be highly compatible with his body, and his body would contain the laws, causing the strength of his physical body to skyrocket. At that moment, the law of primal chaos was constantly pouring into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body was numb, as though a terrifying power was about to be born. Wang. Not long after, a halo of light emerged from Lu Ming's body. Light of chaos, chirp chirp. At the side, Bubble blinked her big eyes and revealed a happy expression. Lu Ming had refined 2 more strands of chaotic energy. Adding on the previous strand of chaotic energy, he now had a total of 3 strands of chaotic energy. His spirit body had been greatly strengthened, and he had also taken advantage of this opportunity to resonate with the laws of primal chaos, allowing him to refine chaotic light. The light of primal chaos was faint at first, but as time passed, the color of the light of primal chaos became darker and darker. In the end, it turned into a beam of light that surrounded Lu Ming's body. After a while, Lu Ming opened his eyes and retracted the light of primal chaos into his body. The strength of my body has increased by another level. Lu Ming sensed it carefully and his eyes flashed. He had not expected that the stone of primal chaos that he had bought unintentionally would allow him to refine the light of primal chaos. What a great opportunity, if not for the 2 strands of chaotic energy. He did not know when he would be able to refine the light of primal chaos. This time, although his cultivation base did not increase, his battle prowess had increased tremendously. Roar! Roar! At that moment, a terrifying roar resounded outside the cave. Gusts of wind whistled out from the depths of the cave. Clang, clang, clang. At the same time, the sound of metal chains colliding could be heard. Lu Ming's face froze. He could not help but think of the Time Island. On the Time Island, a huge living being was sealed and chained. It was extremely powerful and unfathomable. The sound of metal chains could also be heard here. Could it be that there was a supreme expert sealed under the cave like the Time Island? The roar lasted for a while before it stopped. Lu Ming and Bubbles walked to the entrance of the cave and looked out. They saw figures leaping out of the cave and onto the stone bridges. With the help of the stone bridges, they went down. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, there was a roar from the bottom of the cave. At the same time, a dazzling light burst out and shot up into the sky. Below the cave, there were people fighting. Lu Ming could not help but circulate his saint power to his eyes. Suddenly, his vision was greatly enhanced, and he looked down into the cave. This way, the scenery below the cave suddenly became clear. Below the cave, there was a huge platform. In the middle of the platform, there was a palace. Around the platform, there were 4 stone bridges that connected to the walls of the cave. At that moment, there was a group of people fighting on the platform. Huang Ling, Long Qin. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Then a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. At that moment, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and a few elders, who were boundary emperors of the Phoenix Palace and the Divine Elephant Sect, were surrounded by a group of people. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this group of people was from the Hung family. This was because they used the Eternal Spring Law. At that moment, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others were in danger. They were surrounded by the other party. The other party had more people, and they were all boundary emperors. There were as many as 6 of them. On the other hand, Huang Ling and the others only had 3 boundary emperors. Huang Ling and Long Chen's combat strength was still inferior to boundary emperors. Let's kill these 3 old guys first, and leave the 2 young ones behind. These 2 people have a close relationship with Lu Ming. Leave them behind and let Lu Ming exchange the sword of the Celestial Darch for them. One of the people from the Hung family said coldly. Their attacks were even more violent. They attacked the 3 boundary emperors of the Phoenix Palace and the Divine Elephant Sect. As for Huang Ling and Long Chen, they only needed to hold them back. Poof! A burly elder from the Divine Elephant Sect had his dantian pierced by the sword of a boundary emperor from the Hung family. The elder roared angrily and fought back with all his might. He threw a palm strike at the other party. However, the other party quickly retreated after being stabbed. The burly elder from the Divine Elephant Sect had only lightly injured him before he died. Long Qin, you must charge out. The burly elder from the Divine Elephant Sect roared angrily. His body fell heavily to the ground and he stopped breathing. Damn it! Long Qin roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot. Haha, I want to charge out. Dream on. A boundary emperor from the Hung family laughed coldly. He strode forward and a terrifying attack enveloped Huang Ling. He wanted to take her down in one fell swoop. At that moment, a transparent bubble suddenly appeared and enveloped him. His body suddenly stiffened. Then a prison-suppressing steel fell from the sky and slammed into his body. Chapter 1968. A hell-suppressing steel image descended from the sky and tore a quasi-emperor of the Hung clan into pieces. Then a young man landed in front of Huang Ling and Long Qin. Of course, this figure was Lu Ming. When Lu Ming saw Huang Ling and Long Qin being surrounded by the quasi-emperors of the Hung clan, he used the stone bridge to rush over. Lu Ming! Huang Ling and Long Qin rejoiced when they saw Lu Ming. It's Lu Ming! The quasi-emperors of the Hung clan changed their expressions. Hung clan kill! Lu Ming shouted, his killing intent surging out like the tide. Haha, you want to kill us? Lu Ming, you came at the right time. We can finish you off and take back the Heavenly Emperor's sword. That's right. You can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search only to find it by chance. The quasi-emperors of the Hung clan revealed cold smiles and joy. This time, the Hung clan had 2 missions in the Lotus Flower world. The The first was to explore the remnants left behind by the Heavenly Emperor. The second was to kill Lu Ming and take back the Heavenly Emperor's sword. They originally wanted to find Lu Ming. Unexpectedly, Lu Ming delivered himself to their doorstep. Lu Ming, you have to be careful. They have a very strong person. Let's charge out together. Huang Ling sent a voice projection to Lu Ming. Very strong. I want to give it a try. The sharpness in Lu Ming's eyes intensified. He had just refined 2 strands of primal chaos qi and refined the primal chaos light. His strength had increased greatly, and he wanted to see how strong he was. You guys keep an eye on that little girl who controls the space-time laws. Leave Lu Ming to me. A burly quasi-emperor of the Hung clan stepped forward towards Lu Ming. Another quasi-emperor of the Hung clan locked his aura on Bubble, lest Bubble lend a hand. Boom! The burly quasi-emperor of the Hung clan punched at Lu Ming. The instant he punched, the river of laws wrapped around his fist, making the might of this punch even more astonishing. If this punch struck anyone below quasi-emperor, they would be crushed to bits. However, Lu Ming was no ordinary cultivator. Boom! Lu Ming also punched out using the hell-suppressing heaven art. This punch didn't have the image of the hell-suppressing steel. Instead, it contained the power of the hell-suppressing steel in his fist. Boom! Lu Ming's fist collided with his opponent's. Kacha! Then, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. The fist of the Hung clan's burly quasi-emperor directly exploded. His entire person was pushed back by a horrifying force. How can he be so strong? The burly quasi-emperor of the Hung clan roared in disbelief. In that punch just now, he felt that Lu Ming's fist was filled with terrifying power. It was simply invincible. Die! Lu Ming took a step forward and chased after that person. He threw out another punch. This punch caused the space to tremble. The expression of the Hung clan's burly quasi-emperor changed dramatically as he frantically retreated. Let me! Among the quasi-emperors of the Hung clan, a skinny middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ming and punched out, exchanging blows with Lu Ming. Boom! There was a horrifying vibration. Both Lu Ming and his opponent's body shook at the same time as they retreated a few steps. A quasi-emperor with a superior heavenly spiritual body. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Previously, when he met the people of the Daluo Heaven sect and the Feng clan in the Void Turbulence, one of them was a quasi-emperor with a superior heavenly spiritual body. He was so powerful that Lu Ming was completely suppressed. This skinny middle-aged man was also such a person. His combat strength far surpassed that of an ordinary quasi-emperor. You have some strength. Come again. The skinny quasi-emperor was called Hung Shi. When he was young, he was also a genius of the Hung clan. At this moment, he stepped forward, and a battle sword appeared in his hand. The sword Qi was like a rainbow as it slashed toward Lu Ming. This was an emperor weapon. Lu Ming's glabella shone, and the great elixir evolution furnace flew out. Lu Ming grabbed one of the legs of the great elixir evolution furnace and swung it toward his opponent. Boom! Boom! There were a few consecutive explosions as the two collided. It was difficult to determine the winner. This shocked the quasi-emperors of the Hung clan and the Phoenix Palace. Lu Ming's cultivation was only in the great sacred realm. His combat strength was too shocking. He was actually able to fight a quasi-emperor with a superior heavenly spiritual body. Hung Shi was also shocked in his heart. Kill! He roared and circulated his strength to the extreme. His battle sword was like a rainbow as it slashed toward Lu Ming. Thousands of sword qi tore through the air to kill. Buzz! At this moment, a ray of light spread out from Lu Ming's body. As soon as the ray of light appeared, Lu Ming's strength increased greatly. The great elixir evolution furnace was like a giant hammer that constantly smashed toward his opponent. Boom! Boom! After two consecutive moves, Hung Shi's body shook, and he took a few steps back. Light of chaos! Hung Shi roared. Once a son of chaos refined the light of chaos, his combat strength would increase greatly. In the past, among the sons of chaos in the Yuan Mountain, only Hung Xinghe had refined the light of law. Now, Lu Ming had also refined it. Lu Ming swung the great amplification cauldron. His attacks were extremely violent as he continuously bombarded the other party. In the process of attacking, Lu Ming suddenly pointed out a chaos calamity finger. Boom! Hung Shi was pushed back by the chaos calamity finger, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Retreat! Hung Shi suddenly let out a loud roar and retreated. He already knew that he was no match for Lu Ming. If they continued to fight, they would be in danger. Bubbles, attack! Attack together! Lu Ming shouted. Beep, beep! Bubble pouted and spat out transparent bubbles that enveloped the 5 quasi-emperors of the Hung clan. Boom! Lu Ming raised the great elixir evolution furnace and smashed it toward one of the quasi-emperors. Lu Ming's strength had an overwhelming advantage against ordinary quasi-emperors, not to mention that he had Bubbles' help. Without any suspense, that quasi-emperor was killed by Lu Ming in one move. At the same time, Huangling Longqin and the 2 quasi-emperors of the Phoenix Palace attacked the 2 quasi-emperors of the Hung clan and injured them. Boom! Lu Ming raised the great elixir evolution furnace and smashed it again, killing another quasi-emperor. Since Lu Ming's arrival, 3 out of the 6 quasi-emperors of the Hung clan had been killed. There were only 3 left. One of them was Hung Shi, and the other 2 were injured by Huangling Bang. At this moment, Hung Shi unleashed his full strength and pierced through the transparent bubbles. He did not dare to stay any longer. He took a step forward, and his figure soared into the sky and rushed to a stone bridge above. Trying to escape? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold, and he was about to give chase. Roar! Another terrifying roar came from below the cave. A terrifying suction force erupted from below, causing Lu Ming's expression to change, and he stopped chasing. Hung Shi rejoiced. The heavens were helping him. When the roar stopped, Hung Shi continued to rush up at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, he crossed several stone bridges and turned into a beam of light, flying out of the cave. Lu Ming, let us go. A loud roar came. The Hung clan still had 2 quasi-emperors left. At this moment, they were trapped by Bubbles' space-time laws. One of them shouted, Let you go? Why are you so naive? Even Lu Ming was slightly stunned. Chapter 1969. Lu Ming, now that Hung Shi has escaped, the fact that you killed our Hung clan's quasi-emperor will definitely be exposed. The Hung clan will not let you off. If you let us go now, your sins will be reduced. A quasi-emperor from the Hung clan spoke, his voice filled with faint arrogance. Reduce my sins? Why are you so ridiculous? Lu Ming was speechless. Isn't this Hung clan's member too self-righteous? Moreover, the Hung clan has never considered letting me off. It would be a waste not to kill your Hung clan's member. Lu Ming said indifferently. Then a battle sword appeared in his hand. With a slash, he killed a quasi-emperor. The remaining quasi-emperor's face changed drastically, and there was no trace of blood. Their Hung clan was a great emperor faction with a great emperor overseeing it. In the entire Yuan Mountain, they were one of the top factions. Usually, there were almost no factions that dared to go against the Hung clan. There were also not many factions that did not fear the Hung clan. He thought that since Hung Shi had escaped, Lu Ming would most likely have some scruples. However, he did not expect Lu Ming to be so decisive. No, please spare me. The Hung clan's quasi-emperor was afraid and started to beg for mercy. Haha, is this the pride of the Hung clan? Is this the pride of a great emperor faction? When your threat failed, you immediately beg for mercy. How ridiculous! Lu Ming laughed mockingly. The Hung clan's quasi-emperor's face was extremely ugly. However, in the face of life and death, Everything was meaningless. He continued, Lu Ming, as long as you let me off, I will do anything you want. No need. I don't feel at ease leaving someone like you alive. Kill. Lu Ming was very decisive. With a slash of his sword, he killed the Quasi-Emperor. Since one Quasi-Emperor had escaped, so be it. He and the Hung clan could not be reconciled in the first place. What was there to be afraid of? Lu Ming, you have actually refined the light of primal chaos. Huang Ling and Long Chun walked over. Their faces were filled with surprise and joy. The stronger Lu Ming was, the happier they were. Lu Ming nodded and looked around. They weren't the only ones nearby. There were others who were looking at Lu Ming with serious expressions. The battle prowess that Lu Ming had just displayed had left them aghast. Lu Ming looked around and realized that they were currently on a platform. In the middle of the platform, there was a palace. There were stairs on all sides that led to the palace. At that moment, many people were climbing the flight of stairs toward the palace. However, as long as someone stepped onto the stairs, there would be raging flames on the stairs, blocking their path. Even a Quasi-Emperor would find it hard to climb the steps. Lu Ming, this is the core of the ruins. I don't know if there are any treasures in the palace. We can't fly up, so we can only go up the stairs. However, there are terrifying formations on the stairs that block the way. Huang Ling explained. The core of the ruins. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In the core of the time-sacred island, the divine light sacred mountain, they had obtained many plants that could increase one's lifespan. They had also obtained the divine tree of time. It was because of the divine tree of time that Bubble could break through and cultivate the light of space-time. Autumn Moon's injuries were also temporarily stabilized because of the divine tree of time. It was clear how precious the divine tree of time was. Then, what was in the core of this place? Let's go up, Lu Ming said. He took the lead and walked up a flight of stairs. Bubble followed, closely behind Lu Ming, Huang Ling, and Long Qin. The two Quasi-Emperors of the Phoenix Palace also walked up the stairs. The moment they stepped onto the stairs, a terrifying flame energy rushed toward them. However, the flames at the beginning did not pose a problem for them. They easily walked up the stairs. Halfway up, the flames became stronger. Furthermore, Lu Ming discovered problem. The flames on the stairs seemed to have different might depending on one's cultivation. The higher one's cultivation, the greater the might of the flames. Just like the Quasi-Emperors, the flames that they faced were much stronger than the Quasi-Emperors. Therefore, when they were halfway up, the Quasi-Emperors found it difficult to move forward. If they continued, they felt that they would be burned to ashes by the flames. However, Lu Ming, Bubble, Huang Ling, and Long Chun were still able to move forward easily. They did not stop and continued to walk up. A moment later, they stepped onto the stairs. There are so many doors, Huang Ling muttered. The reason for that was because there were a total of 9 doors scattered around the palace. Of the 9 doors, 3 of them were closed, and 6 of them were open. At this moment, their eyes moved. They saw a young man rushing into one of the doors. As soon as he entered, the door closed. It's Wei Tiandao. The Quasi-Emperor's hearts skipped a beat. They all knew that young man. He was Wei Tiandao, who was ranked 4th on the King Sage board. However, when the King Sage board was rearranged, Wei Tiandao was pushed to the 8th place. It seems that someone has also entered the 3 closed doors, Long Qin said. There might be opportunities in these doors. Let's each choose one, Lu Ming said. Okay, then we'll choose according to our feelings. Huang Ling nodded. The 4 of them flew forward and each chose a door. Lu Ming walked to the door on the far right. He realized that this door seemed to have a special attraction to him. It could make his array Dao La restless. After Bubble, Huang Ling, and Long Qin each stepped into a door, Lu Ming also stepped in. After entering this door, the door closed. Lu Ming looked carefully. This was a stone room. The stone room was empty and very spacious. However, as soon as Lu Ming entered, he was attracted by the walls of the stone room. The walls of the stone room were engraved with dense runes. It was extremely mysterious. These are Array Dao runes. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He cultivated the Array Dao law. At a glance, he could tell that these were Array Dao runes. They were extremely mysterious. These runes seemed to form a secret technique. Lu Ming looked for a while and came to a conclusion. Then Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and carefully comprehended. At this moment, in Lu Ming's eyes, the runes on the walls seemed to come alive. They combined with each other and turned into countless possibilities. It was mysterious and unfathomable. He sat there for 3 days. In 3 days, Lu Ming engraved all the runes on the 4 walls in his heart. The 9 scrolls of Array Dao. These are actually 2 of the 9 scrolls of Array Dao, the Destruction Scroll and the Illusory Spirit Scroll. Lu Ming was surprised. Back then, when he obtained the status of a gold inheritor in the Hunyuan sex assessment, he shamelessly asked for one of the 9 scrolls of Array Dao, the Sealing Scroll. At that time, the old man in the Hunyuan sect told Lu Ming that the 9 scrolls of Array Dao was a supreme secret technique for cultivating the Array Dao law. However, it had long been lost. He did not expect to encounter the other 2 scrolls of the 9 scrolls of Array Dao here. The power of the Sealing Scroll was very long and mysterious. During a battle, using the Sealing Scroll could greatly affect the opponent's combat strength. As for the Destruction Scroll, it could use runes to form the power of destruction. Its power was astonishing. Chapter 1970. Lu Ming immediately closed his eyes and began to comprehend the scriptures. There was no sense of time in cultivation. A month passed while Lu Ming was in the process of comprehending. Lu Ming already had the foundation of one of the 9 scrolls of the Art of Formations, the Sealing Scroll. He was able to comprehend the other 2 scrolls fairly quickly. Lu Ming realized that the Sealing Scroll, Destruction Scroll, and Illusionary Spirit Scroll of the 9 scrolls of the Art of Formations could be combined with one another, allowing him to comprehend the rules of the Art of Formations rapidly. Initially, his mastery of the rules of formations had already reached 80%. In just a month, he had comprehended the 3 scrolls at the same time, allowing him to improve his mastery of the rules of formations at a terrifying rate. It had increased from 80% to 90% in just a month. The rules of formations were the rules of the Emperor. How magical! If the 9 scrolls of the Art of Formations are cultivated to a higher level, they can be combined to produce even more shocking power, as expected of the supreme secret Art of Formations. Lu Ming exclaimed, "It's been a month, time to go out. Since I've already memorized them, I can slowly comprehend them in the future." Lu Ming rose to his feet and headed for the door. Strangely, the door opened on its own when Lu Ming arrived at the door. When Lu Ming went out, the door closed again. It closed? Could it be that only one person can enter a door and the people behind can't enter? Lu Ming was astounded. Lu Ming! Brother Lu Ming! At this moment, several voices rang out. Huang Ling, Long Chen, and Bubbles all walked over. "You've already come out?" Lu Ming asked curiously. His eyes glittered as he glanced at Huang Ling and Long Chen. "Your cultivation has improved?" He discovered that Huang Ling and Long Chen's cultivation had both improved to the peak utmost sacred realm. However, Bubbles' cultivation was still in the greater success stage of the utmost sacred realm. He wondered what kind of fortunate encounter she had encountered. "We've found a fortunate encounter in the secret chamber, allowing us to improve our cultivation. However, the secret chamber can only be used once. It will close soon," Huang Ling said. Lu Ming's gaze swept over. Sure enough, he discovered that the 9 doors were all shut. It was obvious that someone had already entered. "Lu Ming, what did you get?" Huang Ling asked curiously. "A secret technique," Lu Ming said. He then looked at Bubbles and asked, "Bubbles, what did you get?" "It's a treasure. As for what it is, I won't tell you." "Chirp, chirp," Bubbles said mysteriously. "You little brat." Lu Ming smiled. "Let's leave this place. Lu Ming said. Below the cave, roars could be heard from time to time. It was very terrifying. Who knew if that powerful existence would cause any commotion? It was better to leave first. Huang Ling and the others nodded. When the roaring stopped, they soared into the air and stepped onto the stone bridge above. Then they found the right opportunity and kept going up. Not long after, they rushed out of the cave. In this area, there were other people who saw Lu Ming and the others coming out of the stone room. Their eyes were filled with greed, but no one dared to make a move. Lu Ming and the others were definitely powerful. By the way, were you in this world when you first came in? Lu Ming asked after coming out of the cave. Yes, we have been exploring the 10,000 beast realm. Unfortunately, we didn't gain much. Long Chen nodded. Do you know where the entrance to the next world is? Lu Ming asked. Yes, we have asked around. We originally planned to explore other worlds after we finished exploring. Huang Ling said. All right, then let's go to the next world. Lu Ming said. Immediately, the group flew in a direction. The 10,000 beast realm was completely different from the 10,000 sea realm. The 10,000 sea realm was a vast ocean, while the 10,000 beast realm was a barren mountain. Lu Ming, Bubbles, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the two quasi-emperors from the Phoenix Palace flew all the way. A few days later, they arrived at the edge of the 10,000 beast realm. There was also a void turbulence here. Huang Ling and Long Chen both took out their emperor weapons to resist the void turbulence. The group stepped into the void turbulence. Along the way, they also met others who were rushing to the 10,000 beast realm. After some time, they passed through the void turbulence and came to another world. There were also human martial artists in this world. They asked around, and indeed, there was a huge ruin in this world that had been passed down since ancient times. They headed in the direction of the ruin. However, halfway through, they met a few acquaintances. Ouyang Wushuang, Huang Li, and some quasi-emperors from the Abyss Empire. When they met Lu Ming and the others, Ouyang Wushuang and the others were pleasantly surprised. Lu Ming, are you going to the ruin? Ouyang Wushuang asked. That's right. Lu Ming nodded. There is no need to go to that ruin. It has been explored. We just came out of that ruin. Where are you from? Ouyang Wushuang asked. We are from the 10,000 beast realm, Lu Ming said. From the 10,000 beast realm? It seems that all 8 worlds have been explored. Ouyang Wushuang's expression changed. He then told them what they had experienced and heard. It turned out that Ouyang Wushuang and the others had already explored a few worlds. They also heard that the ruins of the other worlds had been explored. Now, everyone is heading to the 9th world. Ouyang Wushuang said. The 9th world. Lu Ming's heart stirred. The Lotus world had 9 petals, which represented 9 worlds. When they first entered, Lu Ming observed that everyone would be sucked into different petals. However, there was only one petal that no one entered. Lu Ming felt that there must be something unusual. I heard that someone saw a legend in one of the worlds. The 9th world contains a great secret, and there is only one path that leads to the 9th world. That is Tianyuan in the Tianyuan world. I heard that many powerful forces are rushing to the Tianyuan world. Xinghe River, Hung family, He family, Daluo Heaven sect, and others. Ouyang Wushuang said. In that case, let's go. Lu Ming said. The 9th world should have an extraordinary secret. They should not miss it. Moreover, there were some debts that needed to be settled. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Ouyang Wushuang nodded. Immediately, the group turned around and headed for the Tianyuan world. They could not reach the Tianyuan world directly from this world. They had to pass through 2 other worlds. They crossed several worlds in a row and flew for an unknown distance. After more than 10 days, they finally arrived at the Tianyuan world. Tianyuan world's Tianyuan world was the most famous miracle in the Tianyuan world. Anyone would know about it by asking around. Tianyuan world was in the north of the Tianyuan world. The group headed for Tianyuan world. Tianyuan world was an abyss that stretched across the border of the Tianyuan world. No one knew how long, deep, or wide it was. Chapter 1971. Legend had it that on the other side of Heavenly Abyss was another world, the legendary Ninth World, the world where immortals resided. At this moment, many figures had gathered at the edge of Heavenly Abyss. These people were all experts from various forces in the outside world. Most of them were boundary emperors. Some of them were prodigies who possessed emperor weapons and could pass through the void turbulence. On the edge of Heavenly Abyss, there was a huge platform that seemed to be made of some kind of huge stone. In the middle of the platform, there was a huge altar that was surrounded by dense inscriptions. In front of the altar, there was a young figure sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. However, everyone seemed to be very afraid of this figure, and no one dared to approach the platform. This was because this person was Hung Xinghe, the eternal sun. Hung Xinghe was too terrifying. Previously, there was a boundary emperor who took advantage of his seniority and was disrespectful to Hung Xinghe and was instantly killed by him. Even if many boundary emperors joined forces, they were far from being Hung Xinghe's match. If a boundary emperor were to face Hung Xinghe, they would only be killed in an instant. They would not even be able to withstand one move. What was shocking was that Hung Xinghe's cultivation had yet to step into the boundary emperor realm. Moreover, there were boundary emperors from the Hung family here. Therefore, Hung Xinghe directly occupied the ancient platform that seemed to be very important, and the others could only watch from the periphery. Of course, there were also people who revealed murderous intent in their eyes, and that was the He family. They wished they could kill Hung Xinghe, but here they were no match for Hung Xinghe and could only hide far away, not daring to approach. Young Master Hung Xinghe, you have been studying for many days. Do you know how to cross this abyss and go to the Ninth World? Finally, someone asked. Hung Xinghe did not say anything, as if ignoring that person. After a long while, Hung Xinghe said, I already know the method. His words made many people's eyes light up. What method is it? Someone asked. It's not time to tell yet. Hung Xinghe, if it's not time to tell yet, when will it be time to tell? That person asked. Are you questioning me? Hung Xinghe suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like two divine swords that pierced that person. That person was shocked and could feel a cold, murderous intent shrouding him. He could not help but retreat with a pale face. He quickly said, I don't dare, I don't dare. When it's time to tell, I will tell you. After saying that, he closed his eyes again. The man from before heaved a long sigh of relief, feeling his back drenched in cold sweat. The eternal sun is really terrifying. He is already so terrifying even though he has not become an emperor-to-be. If he becomes an emperor-to-be, wouldn't he be able to compete with a martial emperor? This thought flashed through many people's minds, and they were shocked. As for the He clan, their faces were gloomy. A genius like the eternal sun was a disaster for the He clan. In the future, if Hung Xinghe broke through to the great emperor realm, the two great emperors of the Hung clan would join hands and annihilate the He clan. Therefore, the He clan was thinking about how to get rid of Xinghe. Time flew by just like that. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed. On this day, He, who had been sitting there, suddenly opened his eyes and looked into the distance. His eyes were sharp as he muttered, They are finally here! Everyone was shocked. Finally, who is it? Everyone's gazes followed Xinghe's gaze and saw a group of people flying over. They were led by a few young men. It's Lu Ming, the son of chaos, Lu Ming. Someone exclaimed, recognizing Lu Ming. This shocked even more people. Could it be that Hung Xinghe had been waiting here all this time for Lu Ming? Whoosh! Xinghe got up and took a step forward, heading toward Lu Ming. At the same time, the experts of the Hung clan also followed beside Xinghe. Not far away, Lu Ming, Huangling, Long Chen, and the others stopped. Lu Ming, you are finally here. I have been waiting for you for a long time, Xinghe said indifferently. Is that so? Lu Ming's face was calm. He knew that he would face Xinghe when he came here. Lu Ming, you killed the emperor-to-be of my Hung clan. Today, I will use your blood to pay tribute to them. Behind Xinghe, a figure shouted. It was Hung Shi. They wanted to kill me. Can I fight back? Lu Ming asked. Of course you can fight back. In the world of martial arts, everything is based on strength. The strong will live and the weak will die. They are not as strong as you, so they deserve to die, Xinghe said indifferently, as if the death of a few emperor-to-be of the Hung clan did not bother him at all. However, they are after all from the Hung clan, and I am also from the Hung clan. Since you killed them, I will kill you. Lu Ming, hand over the heavenly emperor's sword, and I will give you a quick death. Xinghe continued. Hung Xinghe, I know you are here for the heavenly emperor's sword. Back in the Origin Mountain sacred court, you couldn't do anything to me. Today, you can't do anything to me, Lu Ming said. His eyes slowly filled with fighting spirit. This is not the Origin Mountain sacred court, Hung Shan said coldly. His meaning was obvious. Back in the Origin Mountain sacred court, Lu Ming and many other experts fought against Hung Xinghe. But today, the experts of the Hung clan were here, and they would not let Lu Ming and the others have the chance. Boom! Boom! The Hung clan had a long history and was a great emperor-level force with too many experts. Today, there were more than 100 emperor-to-be here. At this time, when they gathered together, their aura was really terrifying. The terrifying aura pressed down on Lu Ming and the others, causing their expressions to change. We are here to help you. Not far away, a voice came, and figures came behind Lu Ming and the others. They were the emperor-to-be of the Phoenix Palace, Divine Elephant Sect, Thunder God Sect, and other forces. Your opponents are us. A cold voice sounded. Giant wolves stepped on the air. Golden crows roared, and the aura of battle weapons soared into the sky. The emperor-to-be of the Golden Crow clan, Sky Wolf Pagoda, one clan, Purple Pole Sect, and other forces stepped on the air, and their aura pressed down on Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming, I am here to help you. A beautiful woman came to Lu Ming's side with a group of experts. It was Luo Tianyi and the emperor-to-be of the Jade Lake Immortal Palace. Afterward, more and more powerful cultivators joined Lu Ming and the rest. For example, the emperor-to-be of the Xinyuan Empire and other sects who were alone. But even so, Lu Ming and the other strength was far from enough. Most of the forces on Lu Ming's side were from the ancient moon, sacred ground. At most, they could compete with the Golden Crow clan, Sky Wolf Pagoda, and other forces that were also from the ancient moon, sacred ground. Even with the help of the Xinyuan Empire, it was useless. Haha, it is really lively. Lu Ming, I have to say you are really lucky. A sneer came, and Luo Sangxiong came to the side of the Hung clan with the experts of the Daluo Heaven sect. Then the experts of the Feng clan came to the side of the Daluo Heaven sect. Chapter 1972. Hung family and Daluo Heaven sect were both great emperor-level forces. They had too many experts, far more than Lu Ming and the rest. Moreover, there were Feng clan, Golden Crow clan, Wan family, and other forces gathered together. Many emperor-to-be, surrounded by the river of law, looked like gods in the sky. Their terrifying aura was overwhelming towards Lu Ming and the rest. Behind Lu Ming, everyone stood in a defensive circle, looking dignified. Around them, many people were watching with different expressions. Some people sneered, such as He family. Whether it was Lu Ming or Hung family, they did not have a good impression of them. It was best for them to kill each other. People from Soul Sanctum stood in the distance and did not intervene. Although Autumn Moon and Lu Ming were close, Autumn Moon only represented her lineage in Soul Sanctum. Moreover, they had not seen Autumn Moon yet. Lu Ming is a dead man today. I have long expected that he would end up like this. How dare he go against the Hung family and the Daluo Heaven sect? Ha! Yu Ji sneered in the crowd, gloating. A few young talents from Purple Flame Villa had complicated expressions. This was because a few young men from the Purple Flame Villa had lost a bet to Lu Ming and had to obey his orders. However, in the face of so many experts from the Hung family and the Dalio Heaven sect, they could only choose to ignore them and pretended not to see them, because they would die if they went. Moreover, those Emperor-to-be from Purple Flame Villa did not listen to their orders. Damn it, they think they have more people. It's a pity that our desolate tribe did not come out. Otherwise, we would bring a bunch of Emperor-to-be here to beat them to death. Huang Li growled and was quite unhappy. It's just a fight, Long Chen said. He looked ordinary, but he was full of fighting spirit. A real man would not be afraid of a fight. Don't you want to know how to cross this abyss to the ninth world? At this moment, Xing Xing, his indifferent voice sounded. Many people were shocked. Was Xing, he finally going to say it? If you want to cross the other side of the abyss, you have to open the abyss bridge. The way to open the abyss bridge is simple. You have to sacrifice blood to open the abyss bridge with the blood of many experts to open the abyss bridge to the ninth world. Xinghe's voice spread far and wide. Many people's hearts trembled again. They actually had to sacrifice the blood of powerful cultivators to reach the ninth world. How much blood do you need? Someone asked. I don't know. Naturally, the more the better. Then he looked at Lu Ming and the others, and a cold murderous intent erupted from him. Today, I shall use your blood as a sacrifice to the bridge. Boom, boom, boom. Hearing Xing He's words, the experts of the Hung family, the Dalio Heaven sect, and other forces stepped out one after another. Surrounded by the river of law, the saint power burst out like a tide. Today, they wanted Lu Ming and the others to die here. You guys focus on defense. Leave the eternal star river to me. Lu Ming's voice rang in the ears of Huang Ling and the others. Then Lu Ming's glabella lit up and the great pale derivation furnace flew out and became as big as a mountain. However, the great pale derivation furnace did not hover above Lu Ming's head. Instead, it flew toward Huang Ling and the others, and then landed on the ground with a loud boom. The great pale derivation furnace had 4 legs, and it was propped up high. Huang Ling and the others were all under the great pale derivation furnace. The great pale derivation furnace was the treasure of the great pale derivation hall. Its grade was far above ordinary imperial weapons. In this way, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others only had to defend the sides and did not have to worry about the top. In this way, their defensive strength would be greatly increased. Bubbles, go and help Huang Ling and the others. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubbles. Brother Lu Ming, you have to be careful. Chirp, chirp. Bubbles chirped and moved toward Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others. You guys go and deal with the others. Leave Lu Ming to me. Hung Xing has said coldly. The powerful steam engine locked on to Lu Ming. Kill. Those who hide under the elixir furnace will also die. The Emperor-to-be experts from the Hung family, Dalio Heaven sect, Golden Crow tribe, and other forces stepped into the air and attacked Huang Ling, Long Chen, and Bubbles from all directions. There were only a few dozen Emperor-to-be experts on Huang Ling's side. They were outnumbered by their opponents and could only gather together to defend. All kinds of defensive sacred weapons and imperial weapons covered the surroundings. At the same time, Bubbles attacked. The surrounding space distorted and formed a mirror-like space shield that blocked the attacks. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Hundreds of attacks fell toward Huang Ling and the others. Some of them were blocked by the great pale derivation furnace. At this time, Lu Ming had already broken his connection with the great pale derivation furnace. Otherwise, the terrifying power would follow the great pale derivation furnace and injure Lu Ming. At this time, the great pale derivation furnace was only relying on its indestructible properties to block the attacks. As expected, when the attacks fell on the great pale derivation furnace, they were all blocked by the great pale derivation furnace. The remaining attacks were also blocked by Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others. After all although the opponents outnumbered them. The great pale derivation furnace covered them, and the opponents did not have many angles to attack. Continue. Experts from the Hung family roared and launched various attacks at Huang Ling and the others. At this moment, a shrill scream erupted from the crowd in the distance. Someone suddenly attacked and killed an expert. "What are you doing? You're courting death." Someone shouted, "Use your blood as a sacrifice to the bridge." Someone said coldly, "Then use your blood as a sacrifice to the bridge." The first person shouted, and a huge battle broke out in the area. There were many forces here, and many of them had grudges against each other. Once the area was in chaos, it was as if the whole situation was affected. Those forces who had grudges against each other also started to fight. Since they were going to use the blood of experts as a sacrifice to the bridge, they might as well use the blood of their enemies. Therefore, a huge battle broke out unavoidably. The area was getting bigger and bigger. Soon, the area was in chaos, and there were battles everywhere. Lu Ming and Hung Xinghe stood in the air and looked at each other from afar. "Lu Ming, no one will help you today. You'll die. Hand over the Heavenly Emperor's sword, and I'll leave your corpse intact." Hung Xinghe said coldly, "It's been a long time since we last met. Your cultivation is still at the peak of the absolute Saint Realm. Do you think you can kill me?" Lu Ming sneered. "There are strong and weak absolute saints too." Hung Xinghe said calmly. His cultivation was the same as when he fought with Lu Ming and the others. He was still at the peak of the absolute Saint Realm. The main reason was that a peak absolute saint needed to cultivate a law to perfection to break through to the boundary Emperor realm. However, the higher the level, the harder it was to cultivate, especially since he cultivated the eternal law. However, even at the peak of the absolute Saint Realm, there were differences in the comprehension of the law. Hung Xinghe's mastery of the law had reached 99%. He was stronger than when he fought with Lu Ming and the others. Boom! Hung Xinghe released a shocking aura. At the same time, a halo surrounded Hung Xinghe, making him look like a deity. This was the eternal light. Whoosh! Chapter 1973. Hung Xinghe raised his aura to the maximum and unleashed his eternal light. He was about to attack Lu Ming. Suddenly, a ray of sword light shot across the sky and slashed down at Hung Xinghe. The ray of sword light was filled with the aura of death. As the sword light slashed down, everything was destroyed. Hung Xinghe's eyes narrowed. He waved his hand and unleashed a ray of sword light that clashed with the sword light. Clang! There was an ear-piercing sound. Endless sword light and sword chi swept out in all directions. Hung Xinghe's body shook slightly and he took a step back. A figure appeared in the sky. He carried a battle sword on his back and his hair was messy. It was Deathblade. His aura was shocking. He had reached the great circle of the absolute Saint Realm. Moreover, there was a halo around him. It was the Death Light. Apparently, Deathblade had made great progress during this period of time. Not only did he have a breakthrough in his cultivation, but he had also cultivated the Death Light. Hung Xinghe, I am your opponent. Deathblade stepped forward and stood in front of Hung Xinghe. Deathblade, it's you again. Hung Xinghe's eyes were filled with killing intent. He said, Deathblade, although you have reached the great circle of the absolute Saint Realm and cultivated the Death Light, you are still no match for me. No match for you? Why don't you try? Heavenly Sword of Death. Deathblade was very direct. He attacked as soon as he finished speaking. He unsheathed his battle sword and slashed at Hung Xinghe. Xinghe's eyes turned solemn as a battle sword appeared in his hand. Although he sounded very confident, he didn't dare to be careless when facing Deathblade. Deathblade was the son of death. Now that he had cultivated the Death Light and had reached the great circle of the absolute Saint Realm, he wouldn't be careless. Dazzling sword light burst out as if it was going to pierce through the sky. Boom! The two figures, sword light and sword light, clashed together. Dazzling light exploded in the sky. Hung Xinghe and Death Blade fought fiercely. Their auras were so terrifying that no one dared to stand within a few hundred miles. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. They were evenly matched. Lu Ming was speechless. He had wanted to have a big fight with the Eternal Galaxy River, but it was good that the Death Blade was there to stop the Eternal Galaxy River. He still had other things to do. Lu Ming's figure flashed as he dashed off in a certain direction. That direction was the direction of the Daluo Heaven Sect. At this time, many Emperor-to-be from the Daluo Heaven Sect were attacking Huangling, Long Chun, and the others. The number of Emperor-to-be from the Daluo Heaven Sect was also amazing. Although it was less than that of the Hung family, there were still nearly 100 of them. At this moment, Luo Tsangqiong was standing in the void with a huge seal in his hand. It was the divine seal of deprivation. The deprived divine seal could continuously deprive the space of the energy. The longer it was deprived, the more energy it would accumulate, and the more terrifying its power would be. At this moment, Luo Tsangqiong was constantly stripping away energy until he reached the limit of his control. Die! Luo Tsangqiong roared and pushed out the divine seal of deprivation with his palm. The divine seal of deprivation crashed forward like a mountain. However, Lu Ming's figure suddenly appeared in front of the divine seal of deprivation and pointed at it. The finger of primal chaos calamity burst forth and bombarded the divine seal of deprivation. Boom! With a huge roar, the divine seal of deprivation was defeated. Lu Ming's figure floated back for a distance. The power of the divine seal of deprivation after Luo Tsangqiong had accumulated energy was indeed terrifying. Even with Lu Ming's current battle strength, he was still repelled. Lu Ming, you can actually block my divine seal of deprivation, Luo Tsangqiong cried out in disbelief. He had spent a long time accumulating energy for that move and deprived a lot of energy. Its power had reached an amazing level. An ordinary Emperor-to-be would definitely not be able to block it and would be easily killed. But now, Lu Ming actually blocked it head-on. How could he not be shocked? Luo Tsangqiong, today I'll take your life, Lu Ming said coldly. Autumn Moon was still seriously injured and unconscious. He would not let Luo Tsangqiong go. It would be the same even if Luo Tsangqiong was the grandson of a great emperor. Lu Ming stepped on the void and attacked Luo Tsangqiong. Luo Tsangqiong was shocked and couldn't help but retreat. Lu Ming, you escaped last time. Then I'll kill you again. A burly figure appeared in front of Lu Ming and attacked Lu Ming with a giant hammer. This person was the expert who had fought with Lu Ming in the void turbulence. He had a superior sky spiritual body and was very powerful. Last time, Lu Ming was completely suppressed by his opponent, but this time it would not be the same. Kill! Lu Ming shouted, and a cold light shot out from his eyes. At the same time, a halo shrouded his body, and he pointed his finger. The huge chaotic calamity finger bombarded his opponent's giant hammer, causing it to buzz and be sent flying back. Your battle strength, his opponent was shocked. After exchanging a blow, he felt that Lu Ming's battle strength was much stronger than before. The last time Lu Ming faced him, he was at a complete disadvantage. However, he was the one who was at a disadvantage in the exchange of blows just now. How could Lu Ming's strength have improved so much in such a short time? Chaotic light. You've cultivated the chaotic light. The burly man shouted. Today I'll kill you. Lu Ming said coldly and continued to use the chaotic calamity finger. The huge chaotic calamity finger was filled with chaotic light. It suddenly appeared like the finger of a god and crushed toward his opponent. The burly man roared and used all his strength to brandish his giant hammer to block Lu Ming's attack. But at this time, endless runes appeared in Lu Ming's left hand and a true dragon pounced toward the burly man. This was one of the 9 scrolls of Array Dao, the illusory spirit scroll. The runes transformed into a true dragon with terrifying power. The burly man's giant hammer collided heavily with the chaotic calamity finger. He was using all his strength to block Lu Ming's chaotic calamity finger. How could he spare any energy to block the attack of the illusory spirit scroll? The true dragon pounced on the burly man, and with a long roar, the dragon claw swiped down. Bam! The burly man's body shook violently, and with a muffled groan, he was pushed back and vomited blood. Kill! Lu Ming quickly followed and waved his hand. A huge phantom of the prison-suppressing steel descended from the sky and suppressed the burly man. The burly man let out a blood-curdling scream. His entire body emitted cracking sounds. It was unknown how many of his bones were broken. Then, the runes on Lu Ming's left hand flashed, and another true dragon flew out. It grabbed the burly man and tore with all its strength. Rip! Blood splattered, and the burly man's body was torn apart. Even someone as strong as the burly man, a quasi-emperor with a superior sky spiritual body, was killed by Lu Ming's series of attacks. The 9 scrolls of Array Dao are indeed mysterious. If I can combine the Destruction Scroll, Illusory Spirit Scroll, and Sealing Scroll, its power will increase exponentially. Chapter 1974. For now, the Array Dao laws could only be used as support for Lu Ming. Compared to the primal chaos tribulation finger, they were still weaker. However, if he merged the Destruction Scroll, Illusion Spirit Scroll, and Sealing Scroll, its might would definitely soar. It was easy to imagine how powerful the attack would be if a true dragon, which contained both the power of destruction and the sealing power of the Scroll of Annihilation, were to be unleashed in one move. Just thinking about it made Lu Ming look forward to it. At this moment, Luo Tsangqiong's eyes widened in disbelief. To think that Lu Ming could kill the burly man who was a peak quasi-emperor. Unless one advanced to quasi-emperor with a monarch body, one would be unrivaled among those of the same level. Yet, Lu Ming killed such an existence. This made Luo Tsangqiong's entire body turn cold. Lu Ming looked at Luo Tsangqiong with a cold gaze. His figure did not stop as he charged at Luo Tsangqiong. Men, kill Lu Ming! Kill him! Luo Tsangqiong roared as he frantically retreated. Luo Tsangqiong also retreated with him. Whoosh! 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 Instantly, at least 10 quasi-emperors charged at Lu Ming. All sorts of horrifying attacks flew at Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming simply ignored these attacks. The primal chaos light circled around his body as he charged forward. When those attacks landed on the primal chaos light, they were all blocked. The primal chaos light could be used for both offense and defense. Boom! 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 After Lu Ming charged through the attacks, he threw a few punches in succession. Fist lights tore through the air and directly exploded 3 quasi-emperors in the air. Whoosh! 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 Following that, Lu Ming continuously sent out the primal chaos tribulation finger. 6 primal chaos tribulation fingers flew at the 6 quasi-emperors. Although the power of the 6 fingers scattered, it was enough to deal with ordinary quasi-emperors. The 6 quasi-emperors were sent flying by the 6-finger energies. Their faces paled as they vomited large mouthfuls of blood. At first, Shao Qin killed 3 quasi-emperors. Then he injured 6 quasi-emperors with one move. Such combat prowess was shocking. Luo Tsangqiong and Luo Pokong were even more shocked. The two frantically retreated, not having the courage to fight Lu Ming. However, Luo Tsangqiong retreated even faster because his cultivation was stronger. You won't be able to leave, Lu Ming said indifferently. He rushed out like a flash of lightning, avoiding several experts of the Daluo Heaven sect. The next moment, Lu Ming caught up with Luo Pokong. Luo Pokong was shocked. The long spear in his hand pierced through the void and pierced towards Lu Ming. This was an emperor weapon, coupled with Luo Pokong's law of penetration. Its power was indeed terrifying. However, Luo Po's cultivation was only at the great mastery of the absolute Saint Realm, the same as Lu Ming. In a battle of the same level, no matter how strong he was he was no match for Lu Ming. Lu Ming punched out, striking the tip of the long spear. Luo Pokong's law of penetration was completely useless against Lu Ming. The long spear buzzed and even bent. Then it fiercely bounced out. The end of the spear hit Luo Pokong's body. Luo Pokong screamed and retreated. There was a strong feeling of unreality in his heart. He felt that he was dreaming. Back then, when he met Lu Ming for the first time, Lu Ming had to go all out to defeat him. But now, Lu Ming could defeat him and injure him with a casual move. The gap between the two was getting bigger and bigger as time passed. Luo Pokong, who claimed to be a peerless genius, found it hard to accept. Lu Ming's figure did not stop. He charged toward Luo Pokong. The cold, murderous intent made Luo Pokong's body shiver. Lu Ming, how dare you touch me? I am the genius of the Daluo Heaven Sect. If you touch me, no one in Yuan Mountain can save you. Luo Pokong roared. The Daluo Heaven Sect had a great emperor. He did not believe that Lu Ming dared to touch him. Lu Ming would also die if he touched him. In my life, there are many people who have threatened me, but in the end, they are all dead, and I am still alive. Lu Ming said indifferently. The saint power burst out, and the law of chaos buzzed. He punched out, and a prison-suppressing steel shadow suppressed Luo Pokong. Boom! Luo Pokong was directly blasted to the ground and heavily smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater that was as deep as 10 miles. Luo Pokong lay in the big pit, twitching and spitting blood. That move just now had broken all the bones in his body. Even his saint heart had cracked. At this moment, he was extremely frightened. Endless fear shrouded him. Lu Ming really wanted to kill him. He was not afraid of the Daluo Heaven Sect at all. At this moment, he was scared to death. Whoosh! Lu Ming appeared in the big pit, looking down at Luo Pokong indifferently. No, no! Luo Pokong shouted while spitting blood. Stop, Lu Ming. If you dare to kill him, the Daluo Heaven Sect will not let you go. An emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven Sect shouted. Luo Pokong was the king body of the Daluo Heaven Sect, so he could not die. Ha! Lu Ming sneered. The Daluo Heaven Sect would not let him go? Even if the Daluo Heaven Sect would let him go, he would not let them go. This was his vow to the autumn moon. In the future, he must destroy the Daluo Heaven Sect, no matter what price he had to pay. Lu Ming reached out and grabbed Luo Pokong's emperor weapon long spear in his hand. No! Luo Pokong screamed in horror, trying to struggle to escape. However, the emperor weapon long spear pierced through the space between Luo Pokong's eyebrows and nailed him to the ground. Luo Pokong opened his eyes wide, full of unwillingness. Many people in the surroundings were also shocked. Luo Pokong, the king body of the Daluo Heaven Sect, was killed by Lu Ming. If this news spread out, the people of the Daluo Heaven Sect would go crazy. However, the killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes was still as cold as a knife. This is just the beginning, Lu Ming whispered. He pulled out the emperor weapon long spear and rushed to the sky, looking far away. At this time, Luo Tsangqiang was running away crazily, not daring to stay there. Bubble, give me a hand. Lu Ming transmitted a message to Bubble. Okay. Under the great, defying elixir furnace, Bubble responded. He waved his hands, and a force of the law of time and space followed the void and shrouded Lu Ming. Lu Ming moved his body, as if he was shuttling through the void, and quickly chased after Luo Tsangqiang. With the help of Bubble's law of time and space, Lu Ming's speed was even more amazing, and he quickly approached Luo Tsangqiang. Damn it! The emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven Sect all stopped attacking Huangling and Long Qin and chased after Lu Ming. Luo Pokong was fine, but if Luo Tsangqiang was killed by Lu Ming, they would all die under the wrath of the great emperor. They chased after Lu Ming crazily, but their speed was too far behind Lu Ming's, and they could not catch up with him at all. Lu Ming's body was like a fleeting shadow, and soon he was close to Luo Tsangqiang. Swoosh! Lu Ming pointed his finger, and a calamity finger force condensed into a line, piercing toward Luo Zhangqiong. Break! A battle axe appeared in Luo Zhangqiong's hand. The battle axe was very powerful, and it was definitely an emperor weapon and not an ordinary one. The battle axe chopped out and blocked Lu Ming's finger force, but his body was also shaken off and his face flushed. Chapter 1975. Luo Zhangqiong retreated and Lu Ming followed. He waved his right fist, and the illusory image of the prison-suppressing steel appeared, pressing down on Luo Zhangqiong. Deprive, deprive! Luo Zhangqiong roared, and the deprive law shrouded the battle axe, constantly depriving the external energy to enhance the power of the battle axe. It chopped down on Lu Ming. Clang! The battle axe hit the illusory image of the prison-suppressing steel, causing a violent vibration. Although Luo Zhangqiong blocked the illusory image of the prison-suppressing steel, his body kept retreating, his face flushed, and blood spilled from the corners of his mouth. However, Lu Ming did not stop attacking. There were 9 illusory images of the prison-suppressing steel in the sky, continuously pressing down on Luo Zhangqiong. Luo Zhangqiong could only do his best to resist, and at the same time he roared, "A bunch of trash, come and save me! Do you all want to die?" Of course, he was roaring at the Emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect. The Emperor-to-be's faces darkened, and they flew over with all their strength. Luo Zhangqiong's status in the Daluo Heaven sect was too special and honorable. As the grandson of a great emperor, he was so talented that even the void emperors and true emperors had to give him face. What was more, the Emperor-to-be could decide his life and death with a word. "No one can save you today," Lu Ming said coldly. Endless runes appeared in his left hand and turned into a real dragon, pouncing on Luo Zhangqiong. 2 kinds of laws were activated at the same time, and Luo Zhangqiong was even more vulnerable. He was immediately blown away, spitting out blood. Whoosh! Lu Ming moved and appeared above Luo Zhangqiong. He pointed at Luo Zhangqiong with the chaotic tribulation finger. Boom! Luo Zhangqiong's body was blasted down like a cannonball, just like Luo Pokong. Then Lu Ming swooped down and caught up with Luo Zhangqiong. He took out the long spear that he got from Luo Pokong and infused it with saint power. The long spear buzzed and stabbed toward Luo Zhangqiong's glabella. "Oh no! Stop!" The Emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect shouted in shock. Lu Ming was simply audacious. He did not care about Luo Zhangqiong's identity. First, he killed Luo Pokong. Now, he even wanted to kill Luo Zhangqiong. Luo Zhangqiong was terrified and let out a crazy roar. He was unwilling to accept this. He was mad with hatred. However, he would not beg for mercy. If he did not die, he would definitely kill Lu Ming in the future. Whoosh! The Imperial Armament spear pierced toward Luo Zhangqiong's forehead with terrifying sharpness. However, just as the long spear was about to pierce Luo Zhangqiong, a black iron plate suddenly appeared between his eyebrows. Clang! The long spear pierced the iron plate and sparks flew everywhere. However, this iron plate was incomparably hard, and the spear was unable to pierce through it. The long spear vibrated, and a terrifying force pushed Luo Zhangqiong to the ground at an even faster speed. However, in the process of Luo Zhangqiong's descent, the iron plate actually increased rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it covered Luo Zhangqiong's entire body. Like a set of black armor, Luo Zhangqiong was shrouded in it. Boom! Luo Zhangqiong's body smashed into the ground, causing the earth to tremble as a huge crater appeared. But in the next moment, Luo Zhangqiong stood up as if nothing had happened. "Grandpa, ha ha ha!" Luo Zhangqiong laughed ecstatically. He knew that this was the protective imperial armament that his grandpa had secretly placed in his body to save his life at the critical moment. However, his grandpa did not tell him in advance, most likely because he wanted to train him. With this imperial armament protecting him, he knew that he would be fine. Lu Ming could not kill him. Great Emperor, bless him! The quasi-emperors of the Daluo Heaven sect were also ecstatic. Do you think you'll be fine hiding in the armor? Kill! Lu Ming's eyes were cold. Holding the long spear, he swooped down like a flowing light and pierced Luo Zhangqiong's head in an instant. However, with a clang, the long spear still did not pierce Luo Zhangqiong's armor. This armor was really sturdy and immortal. Lu Ming, you can't kill me. If I don't die today, you'll be the one to die in the future. Luo Zhangqiong roared, his killing intent extremely cold. Today, Lu Ming had almost killed him, which made his killing intent towards Lu Ming even stronger. Clang! Lu Ming did not bother to talk nonsense with him. With a sweep of the long spear, Luo Zhangqiong's body directly flew out and hit the wall of the big pit. His body was buried in the ground. However, in the next moment, Luo Zhangqiong rushed up from the ground, not far away. Whoosh! Lu Ming moved and rushed towards Luo Zhangqiong. Deprive God Seal. Luo Zhangqiong used the Deprive God Seal to fight back, but it was shattered by Lu Ming's finger. At the same time, Lu Ming used the seal scroll of the 9 scrolls of formation doctrine. The dense runes shrouded Luo Zhangqiong and sealed him. Then, Lu Ming clasped Luo Zhangqiong's neck and pushed him to the ground. Boom! Luo Zhangqiong fell heavily on the ground, and another big pit appeared on the ground. Bang! Then, Lu Ming stepped on Luo Zhangqiong's head. Luo Zhangqiong's head sank into the rock. Ah, Lu Ming, I'll kill you! Luo Zhangqiong roared. It's really a tortoise shell. It's comparable to Dandan's tortoise shell. Lu Ming muttered. At this time, in a distant place, a little tortoise sneezed and cursed. Which bastard is scolding me? Come on, let's go. Then the little tortoise rushed towards a big tomb, shrouded in clouds, and disappeared. Lu Ming continued to torture Luo Zhangqiong. He stepped on Luo Zhangqiong's crotch, causing him to scream and bend his body. Although the armor is hard, it's still painful. Continue. Lu Ming stepped on Luo Zhangqiong's crotch again. Luo Zhangqiong roared like a beast. His face was flushed red in the armor, and tears and snot were flowing down his face. Let go of young Master Luo. You're courting death. At this moment, the quasi-emperors of the Daluo Heaven sect rushed over with all kinds of weapons and attacked Lu Ming. Some of them held imperial weapons and attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed one of Luo Zhangqiong's legs and used it as a hammer to swing at those quasi-emperors. One of the quasi-emperors was waving an imperial weapon and attacking Lu Ming. But when he saw Luo Zhangqiong coming at him, he quickly held back some of his strength. Therefore, he faced a miserable outcome. Luo Zhangqiong's body hit him heavily. The quasi-emperor screamed and flew hundreds of miles away, lying on the ground and twitching all over. Bang! Bang! Then Lu Ming rushed to the sky, grabbed Luo Zhangqiong, and kept swinging him like a hammer toward the quasi-emperors of the Daluo Heaven sect. Luo Zhangqiong's armor was really strong and indestructible. It was harder than many imperial weapon giant hammers. Lu Ming smashed it with great force. Several quasi-emperors with weaker cultivation were smashed to death. Their bodies immediately collapsed. Those quasi-emperors of the Daluo Heaven sect had scruples. Even if some of them had imperial weapons, they did not dare to attack with full force for fear of injuring Luo Zhangqiong. Chapter 1976. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming grabbed one of Luo Zhangqiong's legs and used him as a weapon. Several emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect were smashed away, and one was even smashed to death. The others spat out blood and retreated. Ha ha ha! Cool, this weapon is really handy. Lu Ming laughed heartily, feeling extremely carefree. On the contrary, Luo Zhangqiong was furious and constantly roared. He wanted to rush out and fight with Lu Ming, but he finally restrained himself. He was too aggrieved. At first, his face was stepped on by Lu Ming, and then his crotch was stepped on by Lu Ming, which made him miserable. At this moment, Lu Ming used him as a weapon to kill the people of the Daluo Heaven sect. He was so angry that he wanted to go crazy. He kept roaring to vent his anger. He knew that he had been utterly humiliated. Even if he were to achieve great things in the future, or even achieve the martial monarch realm like his grandfather, it would still be a humiliation for the rest of his life. People would laugh at him behind his back. Lu Ming, I will make you suffer. I swear. Ah, and your family, your friends, they will all die. Luo Tsangchong's crazy voice came out. What are you shouting for? It was you who killed the people of the Daluo Heaven sect. I just did it on your behalf. Lu Ming scolded. Luo Tsangchong spat out a mouthful of blood. What did he mean by it was he who killed the people of the Daluo Heaven sect, and Lu Ming just did it on his behalf? Don't use him as a weapon if you have the ability. Bang! Lu Ming swung Luo Tsangchong out, and another emperor-to-be was blown away. The emperor-to-be spat out blood. Luo Tsangchong was also dizzy because of the collision. Don't fight with him. The emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect shouted and stepped back, not daring to get close to Lu Ming. Other emperor-to-be did the same. When they saw Lu Ming coming, they quickly ran away. Then the scene became a funny scene. Lu Ming swung Luo Tsangchong and chased him in the sky. The emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect was running around in a mess. Many people were speechless. The first young master of the Daluo Heaven sect, the grandson of the great, the genius who had been deprived of the king-level physique, and nearly 100 emperors-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect, were beaten so badly by Lu Ming. After Luo Tsangchong was brutally abused, he became Lu Ming's weapon, which really made people speechless. At the same time, everyone was shocked. This also proved how powerful Lu Ming was. Hey, don't run away. There are so many emperor-to-be here, but none of you dare to fight with me. The Daluo Heaven sect is a great emperor-level influence. What a disappointment. Lu Ming carried Luo Tsangchong upside down and ran wildly in the air, chasing the emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect. The emperor-to-be of the Daluo Heaven sect turned blue with anger. Put Luo Tsangchong down if you have the ability. You're carrying Luo Tsangchong, yet you're still fighting like this? Those quasi-emperors roared in their hearts. Lu Ming, come and fight with me if you have the ability. At this time, Xinghe's voice was heard all over the place. He was also very unhappy. In Yuan Mountain Saint Academy, Luo Tsangchong had turned to him and was a member of the Celestial Emperor Alliance. Now he was beaten so badly by Lu Ming, which made him lose face. At this moment, Xinghe and Deathblade had already exchanged hundreds of blows. Deathblade was gradually at a disadvantage in the battle. After all, Xinghe had already broken through to the exceptional saint realm and was very close to the emperor-to-be realm. In terms of the mastery of the law, he was stronger than Deathblade. After a long battle, he gradually gained the advantage. Xinghe, your cultivation is 2 levels higher than mine. As an eternal sun, you want to fight with someone whose cultivation is lower than yours. Is this your arrogance? Well, isn't everyone in the Hung family like you? Lu Ming sneered. If you don't dare to fight, then just say it. Xinghe and Deathblade exchanged blows again and forced Deathblade to retreat dozens of miles. Xinghe, you don't have to provoke me. Today, I really want to fight with you. After saying that, Lu Ming stopped chasing the people of Daluo Heaven sect. He carried Luo Tsangchong and walked toward Xinghe. Many people, including Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the rest, as well as Lu Ming's enemies, were shocked. Was Lu Ming really going to fight with Xinghe? Although Lu Ming's combat strength was strong, he was definitely not Xinghe's opponent. Perhaps he was going to join forces with Deathblade. Many people thought so. Let me go! Luo Tsangchong roared. Shut up! Lu Ming stepped forward and stepped on Luo Tsangchong's crotch. Luo Tsangchong screamed like a eunuch and arched his body. In Lu Ming's palm, runes constantly spread out and covered Luo Tsangchong's armor. Luo Tsangchong was sealed and could not resist. He could only be carried by Lu Ming like a weapon. Everyone was stunned. Was Lu Ming going to fight with Xinghe with Luo Tsangchong as a weapon? Deathblade, leave Xinghe to me. Lu Ming stepped forward and came to Deathblade's side. "Leave it to you." Deathblade was puzzled. "Why? You don't trust me? Don't worry, I'll beat up Xinghe for you. You go and help Huangling." Lu Ming said. Lu Ming is so arrogant that he wants to fight Xinghe alone. And didn't you hear his tone? He actually ordered Deathblade to help Huangling. That's ridiculous. With Deathblade's character, it's good that he didn't draw his sword. Some people whispered. Although many people were still fighting, there were also some people who did not make a move. They stood in the distance and watched the battle. After hearing Lu Ming's words, they all shook their heads. However, the next scene was beyond their expectations. Deathblade nodded and then moved. He turned into a terrifying sword light and attacked the quasi-emperors of the Hung family. The Deathblade was extremely terrifying. With one slash, 3 quasi-emperors of the Hung family were killed. "Damn it, let's kill him together." The quasi-emperors of the Hung family were furious. Many of them joined forces and launched a terrifying attack on Deathblade. However, Deathblade was surrounded by the light of death. Within 100 meters around him, it was like a domain of death. The light of death merged with the sword light. With one slash, it broke the opponent's attack and killed a quasi-emperor. Ordinary quasi-emperors were almost defenseless against Deathblade and were killed in one move. Sky Veil of Death. Then, a terrifying gray gas spread out from Deathblade's body. This was the Chi of Death. It shrouded at least half of the area of the Great Derivation Furnace. When the quasi-emperors saw this Chi of Death, they retreated. In this way, the pressure on Huangling, Longchen, and Ouyang Wushuang was greatly reduced. They were able to block the opponent's attack. Xinghe's face turned ugly. His body was shrouded in the light of eternity. He was like a god that was eternal and immortal. Bang! Then, Xinghe took a step forward. A terrifying aura pressed down on Lu Ming like a storm. He did not want to talk nonsense. He wanted to end the battle quickly and kill Lu Ming as soon as possible to take back the Heavenly Emperor's sword. "Let's fight," Lu Ming muttered. His spine was suffused with a crimson glow, and a drop of blood appeared. Waves of powerful and terrifying energy surged into Lu Ming's body. Chapter 1977. Lu Ming had unleashed his third bloodline. Lu Ming knew that if he did not unleash his third bloodline, he would not be a match for Hung Xinghe. Hung Xinghe was an eternal son and was not inferior to him in any aspect. He had mastered the eternal law, cultivated the eternal light, and was about to become a quasi-emperor. He was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming. Even his divine skills were more powerful than Lu Ming's and had reached 99% mastery. In terms of spiritual body, Lu Ming might not be as strong as Hung Xinghe, even if he had refined 3 chaotic laws. He was born with an eternal body and was protected by the heavens. Once he became a martial emperor, his spiritual body would evolve into a superior heavenly spiritual body. In fact, all Elysian sons were like that. Lu Xiang's life body, Ouyang Moli's reincarnation body, and Deathblade's death body were all born with it. Once they reached the martial emperor level, they would become superior heavenly spiritual bodies. Moreover, because they were born with it, their spiritual bodies contained a special substance. For example, the life body contained the Chi of life. The chaotic body contained the Chi of chaos. Therefore, their spiritual bodies were stronger than superior heavenly spiritual bodies. Strictly speaking, Lu Ming could not be considered an Elysian son. This was because everything he had was acquired through cultivation and not something he was born with. His soul and the laws of chaos were both cultivated. He was not born with the chaotic body. However, others did not know this. When they saw that Lu Ming had mastered the chaotic laws, they called Lu Ming the son of chaos. Now, Lu Ming's spiritual body had refined 3 chaotic Chi. Compared to Hung Xinghe, he might have a slight advantage. Lu Ming's other advantage was that he had 2 sacred hearts and 2 laws. However, this was not enough to make up for the gap between him and Hung Xinghe. Therefore, he needed the 3rd bloodline to make up for it. The 3rd bloodline seemed to have endless energy. Even though Lu Ming had reached his current level, he still felt that the energy in it was endless. He could only borrow a drop in the ocean. Endless killing intent emanated from Lu Ming's body. His eyes began to turn blood red. His long black hair also turned blood red. His aura was constantly increasing, and he could faintly contend with the stellar river. Xinghe's eyes narrowed slightly as he said, coldly, "Borrowing external forces is ultimately too weak to withstand a single blow. Kill." His silhouette instantly rushed towards Lu Ming, as though he had teleported. At the same time, a battle sword appeared in his hand. Without a doubt, it was an emperor-ranked weapon. The sword light slashed through the air, slashing towards Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming was even more straightforward. He lifted Luo Tsangqiong and smashed him towards the stellar river. Luo Tsangqiong roared in his armor, feeling extremely aggrieved. He had become Lu Ming's weapon. Xinghe's expression also changed. With a flick of his wrist, the sword light changed direction and slashed towards Lu Ming from another direction. However, Lu Ming flung Luo Tsangqiong away and crashed into the sword light of Stellar River. Stellar River's sword light changed again, but Lu Ming could always keep up with the sword light by wielding Luo Tsangqiong. "Lu Ming, let go of Luo Tsangqiong and fight with me if you dare." Anger appeared on Xinghe's face, which had been calm all along. There was a ball of fire in his chest. Lu Ming wielded Luo Tsangqiong to fight with him. Luo Tsangqiong's identity was extraordinary. He was the grandson of a great emperor. In terms of status, he was higher than Lu Ming. Although the Han clan also had a great emperor, that great emperor was his ancestor. He was afraid that if he seriously injured or killed Luo Tsangqiong, he would offend the great emperor of the Daluo Heaven sect. "Nonsense. You have an emperor-ranked battle sword. I don't have an emperor-ranked weapon. This is my emperor-ranked weapon," Lu Ming said as he flung Luo Tsangqiong away. Luo Tsangqiong was dizzy from the flinging. When he heard Lu Ming's words, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. When did he become Lu Ming's emperor-ranked weapon? Then I won't use my emperor-ranked weapon. I'll fight with you. Stellar River. Are you stupid not to use your emperor-ranked weapon when you have one? Anyway, I'm going to use it, Lu Ming said disdainfully. He swung Luo Tsangqiong and smashed it toward Xinghe with astonishing power. The armor on Luo Tsangqiong's body was extraordinary. It was sturdy and indestructible. Lu Ming thought that even the Void Emperor wouldn't be able to break it so easily. It was the most suitable weapon. The two exchanged a few moves. For a moment, Xinghe was at a disadvantage and couldn't use his full strength. Many people looked at each other in dismay. Lu Ming is really shameless. Some people were indignant. Hee, Xinghe's cultivation is 2 levels higher. How can Lu Ming not use some tricks? Why don't you say that Xinghe is shameless? Some people felt that Lu Ming's behavior was normal. Look, the platform is reacting. At this moment, someone exclaimed and pointed at the stone platform. By now, many people had died in the battle. The blood of those who died in the battle was attracted by a mysterious force and flew toward the stone platform and seeped into the ancient altar. The ancient altar was flickering. Then a giant blood-red bridge extended from the stone platform to the other side of the abyss. However, the giant blood-red bridge only extended for a short distance before it stopped. Sacrificing blood to the bridge. It's really sacrificing blood to the bridge, but there's not enough blood. Someone shouted, "Kill!" At the scene, the battle cries shook the sky. Some of the stronger forces began to kill some of the weaker forces. More people joined the battle. It was chaos. People were constantly killed and fell here forever. Xinghe's eyes were also filled with a bright light. He shouted coldly, "Lu Ming, sacrifice your blood to the bridge." After saying that, Xinghe's sword light skyrocketed. He seemed to no longer be afraid of Luo Tsangqiong. His battle sword broke through the air with an incomparably sharp qi and slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming lifted Luo Tsangchong and smashed it. Clang! Xinghe's battle sword accurately slashed Luo Tsangchong's body, creating a loud sound and sparks. Luo Tsangchong's body shook violently. He was stunned by the powerful force. Lu Ming's body swayed, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Swoosh! Swoosh! Xinghe's sword light was like a flying immortal, constantly slashing toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming circulated all the strength in his body and stepped forward. Luo Tsangchong in his hand was like a black hammer that constantly smashed out. Clang! Clang! The 2 of them clashed for more than 10 moves in a row. The void was rumbling and vibrating constantly. The terrifying energy turned into shock waves that spread outwards in a circle. Some people who were closer to them were hit by the shock waves. They couldn't help but be pushed back, their faces pale. Many people were shocked. This kind of combat strength was terrifying. Ordinary quasi-emperors couldn't withstand the shock waves. How shocking was that? What shocked them even more was that Lu Ming could actually fight against Xinghe. This made it difficult for many people to calm down. The He family, Daluo Heaven sect, and the only powerful forces, such as the Divine Temple. The Wan family of the ancient Moon Holy Land, the Golden Crow clan, and the Sirius Pagoda were also shocked. Chapter 1978. Hung Xinghe was known as the #1 supreme talent among the younger generation in Yuan Mountain. Didn't that mean that the current Lu Ming was already standing at the peak of the younger generation in Yuan Mountain, and it was hard to find a match for him? The experts from the Golden Crow clan, Wan clan, and other forces looked gloomy. They had to report this matter to their superiors when they got out so that they could come up with a countermeasure. If this continued, Lu Ming would continue to grow, and it would be a disaster for them. Lu Ming and Hung Xinghe exchanged more than 10 moves, but it was hard to determine the winner. Hung Xinghe seemed to be afraid of breaking Luo Tsangchong's armor. Clang! After another explosion, the seal runes that had been covering Luo Tsangchong's armor collapsed. Boom! Luo Tsangchong went berserk and activated the law of deprivation at full force, shrouding Lu Ming in an attempt to devour Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He finally knew why Hung Xinghe had exchanged blows with him previously. His purpose was to break the seal on Luo Tsangchong's body and let Luo Tsangchong regain his freedom. Eternal sword tied. How could Hung Xinghe miss this opportunity? In an instant, he stabbed out more than 1,000 times with his sword. Endless sword lights were like a tide of swords stabbing towards Lu Ming. All of them were aimed at Lu Ming's vital points. At this moment, Lu Ming wanted to reseal Luo Tsangchong and use him as a weapon, but it was no longer possible. It would even put him in danger. Whoosh! Lu Ming let go of Luo Tsangchong and retreated rapidly. He kept punching out with his fists, and the shadows of the prison-suppressing steels appeared and blocked the sword lights that were coming towards him. As soon as Luo Tsangchong was free, his figure flickered wildly and pulled a long distance away from Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I'll remember this. Just you wait. Luo Tsangchong's angry voice was heard. I'll remember this too. I believe everyone will remember this too. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Luo Tsangchong was so angry that he almost vomited blood. His body trembled with anger. That's right. Today's matter had already been remembered by everyone, and it would soon spread throughout the entire Yuan Mountain. In the future, when others saw Luo Tsangchong, they would think of today's scene. Luo Tsangchong was just a joke. He was so angry that he wanted nothing more than to chop Lu Ming into pieces. He wanted nothing more than to kill everyone who had witnessed what had happened today. Trash, get lost. Lu Ming could not be bothered with Luo Tsangchong. He waved his hand disdainfully before turning his gaze to the stellar river. Luo Tsangchong was so angry that he almost went up to Lu Ming. Lu Ming, now that you don't have Luo Tsangchong, let's see how you're going to stop me. The eternal light on Xinghe's body became more and more brilliant, as if he was an immortal that didn't belong to this world. With one less piece of trash, it's a good fight, Lu Ming said faintly as he channeled his saint power to the extreme. Chaotic light surrounded him, making him look like a god of war. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two of them moved at the same time, charging towards each other. Sword of Eternity. Chaotic Calamity Finger. A ray of sword light collided with a huge finger in the air, and then they were annihilated. Lu Ming and Xinghe's figures also collided. Lu Ming slashed down again, and a phantom of the prison-suppressing steel appeared. It was as big as a mountain, and with an aura that could suppress the heavens, it suppressed Xinghe. Xinghe's sword light slashed violently and split the phantom of the prison-suppressing steel in one fell swoop. But what faced him were more phantoms of the prison-suppressing steel. Lu Ming waved his hand, and 9 phantoms of the prison-suppressing steel appeared and blasted toward Xinghe. At the same time, countless inscriptions appeared on his left hand and spread toward Xinghe. This was the power of the seal, and he wanted to seal Xinghe. However, when the power of the seal got close to Xinghe, it couldn't break through the eternal light of the stellar river and was blocked. Then the eternal light shook, and the countless runes collapsed. I'm an eternal. How can a mere law of the king do anything to me? Xinghe's voice rang out. At the same time, a terrifying sword light burst out and shattered the 9 prison-suppressing steels. Whoosh! There was another sword light that pierced through the phantoms of the prison-suppressing steels and attacked Lu Ming. However, when the sword light hit the chaotic light, it was as if it had hit an iron wall. It made ear-piercing and unpleasant sounds, and sparks flew in all directions. Kill! Lu Ming roared, and his blood-red hair fluttered. He borrowed the power of the 3rd bloodline to cross the gap between him and Xinghe, and the two of them began a peak battle. Lu Ming sometimes used the prison-suppressing heavenly skill, sometimes the chaotic finger of calamity, and together with the law of formation, he erupted with astonishing battle strength. An ordinary quasi-emperor could be killed in one move. However, Xinghe was indeed powerful. His sword light pierced the sky, and his body turned into an eternal light. He was no weaker than Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, the two of them exchanged more than 100 moves, but there was no clear winner. Boom! The two of them exchanged another blow. The eternal light and chaotic light shook, and the two of them floated back at the same time. Lu Ming, this secret technique of yours is indeed very powerful, but the aftereffects should be very severe. I wonder how long you can last. Xinghe's eyes flickered with sharpness. He believed that the power of Lu Ming's 3rd bloodline should be a strange and terrifying secret technique that could increase one's battle strength in a short period of time. However, such a secret technique would usually have a huge aftereffect. Why don't you give it a try? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Naturally, he would not explain. The energy in the 3rd bloodline was endless. Even if he kept borrowing it, it would not be exhausted. Lu Ming, even if you use your secret technique, you are still no match for me. Then, I will show you my strongest battle strength. Xinghe said coldly. The eternal light on his body became brighter and brighter, as if it was about to burn. Eternal divine bell. At this moment, Xinghe's aura increased by another notch. His body shone brightly and finally turned into a large bell that enveloped him. Clang! The large bell buzzed, and a sound wave, visible to the naked eye, rushed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's face suddenly changed. In the face of this sound wave, he had a very dangerous feeling. Chaotic Calamity Finger. Lu Ming did not hesitate to use the Chaotic Calamity Finger and pointed it out with all his might. However, when the sound wave rushed over, the Chaotic Calamity Finger exploded inch by inch. The terrifying sound wave rushed past and continued to rush toward Lu Ming. What terrifying power! Lu Ming's face turned solemn. He quickly retreated, and at the same time he punched out with both his fists. Illusions of the suppressing prison monuments appeared and blocked in front of him. Bam! Bam! The illusions of the suppressing prison monuments continued to explode. Lu Ming's body trembled. He felt a terrifying force acting on his body, as if it was going to tear his body apart. Even the chaotic light on his body could not withstand it. Lu Ming retreated for 100 miles before he managed to resist this surge of power. Gosh, is this Xinghe's true battle strength? This is too terrifying. Who below the martial emperor realm can defeat him? Lu Ming is going to lose. He is no match for him. Lu Ming's cultivation is still too low. It is difficult for him to overcome the gap in cultivation. Chapter 1979. Everyone was shocked by Xinghe's combat strength. It turned out that he had not used his full strength earlier. Now that he had unleashed his full strength, he was able to push Lu Ming back 100 miles in one move. At this moment, Huangling Longchen and the others looked worried. The situation on their side had improved a lot. With the addition of the Death Blade, the pressure on them was greatly reduced. Ordinary boundary emperors would only be killed by the Death Blade. Until now, many boundary emperors had died at the hands of the Death Blade. Blood was absorbed by the platform, and the blood-red bridge became longer and longer. It extended all the way to the front and disappeared into the depths. No one knew if it could reach the other side. Xinghe stepped into the air and moved toward Lu Ming. His body was enveloped by a large bell that seemed to be transparent. One could clearly see Xinghe's figure. Lu Ming, you are no match for me. In front of eternity, everything is in vain. Kill. Xinghe said indifferently, as if he had turned into a high and mighty deity looking down on the common people. Clang! The eternal divine bell vibrated for the second time, and a terrifying sound wave whizzed out. The space rippled like water, and like thousands of soldiers and horses, it crushed toward Lu Ming. Retreat! Some people behind Lu Ming were shocked. They retreated one after another, afraid that they would be swept in. With their combat strength, if they were swept in, they would definitely be smashed to pieces. Lu Ming's face was solemn. He raised his cultivation to the maximum and did his best to resist. The Tai Chi disc flew out and suppressed forward. At the same time, the primal Chaos Finger and Hell Suppressing Heaven skill were unleashed. But it was useless. The Tai Chi disc was sent flying, and it dimmed. The primal Chaos Finger and Hell Suppressing Heaven skill could not block it and were shattered. It was not that the primal Chaos Finger or Hell Suppressing Heaven skill were inferior to the other party. It was just that Lu Ming's cultivation was not enough, and there was a gap between them. It was difficult for him to unleash such a strong power. Whoosh! Lu Ming's figure retreated again. This time, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Lu Ming, you are not bad to be able to block 2 of my attacks, but today your fate is sealed. Kill, silence, all things. Clang! The eternal god bell vibrated for the 3rd time. This time, it was even more terrifying. The terrifying sound waves actually transformed into an army. They were like the celestial soldiers in the legends, holding divine weapons and riding strange beasts. Their killing intent soared to the heavens as they crushed toward Lu Ming. The entire void was trembling. The attack this time was undoubtedly even more terrifying. Lu Ming was knocked back, spitting out a mouthful of blood. His face was somewhat pale. Among my peers, you are the first one to withstand 3 strikes from my eternal godly bell. Hand over the celestial emperor's sword, and I'll leave your corpse intact. Xinghe was incomparably arrogant as his snow-white robe fluttered in the wind. He quickly approached Lu Ming, as if victory was certain. Its power is indeed not bad, but it's still not enough. Lu Ming chuckled. At this moment, his eyes were cold. It seemed like he had no choice but to give it a try. Now he could only borrow more power from his 3rd bloodline. The 3rd bloodline was too strange. Lu Ming had always avoided borrowing the power of the 3rd bloodline, but now he had no choice but to do so. Come, power! A ferocious look flashed across Lu Ming's eyes. Boom! A surge of crimson energy roared wildly and rushed into Lu Ming's body. Roar! Lu Ming roared. His voice was like that of a wild beast. Terrifying, murderous intent erupted and shrouded the surroundings. Xing Xinhe's face changed abruptly when he was hit by the killing intent. The killing intent gave him the feeling that he was facing an incomparably powerful and crazy existence. It was as if he was going to slaughter all living things and destroy everything. Pissed, pissed, pissed. At this moment, Lu Ming's body swelled and bone spikes protruded from his body. It made Lu Ming look a little ferocious, like a demon that had walked out from purgatory. Even Huangling, Long Chen, Ouying Wushuang, and the rest were a little shocked. They had never seen Lu Ming in such a state. Xing Xinhe, watch me break your broken bell. Lu Ming roared. His eyes were full of ferocious and endless killing intent. However, Lu Ming's current cultivation was not what it used to be. Although his killing intent was endless, he had not lost his mind. Swoosh! Lu Ming's figure flashed like a phantom. The next moment, he appeared in front of the stellar river. Almost no one saw how Lu Ming moved. It was too fast. Swoosh! Lu Ming's claws clawed out. At this moment, Lu Ming's nails had become much longer. They were like sharp blades as he clawed at Xing Xinhe. Xing Xinhe's face changed, and he quickly attacked. Clang! The eternal divine bell vibrated, and a more terrifying sound wave than before rushed out. The sound wave collided with Lu Ming's claws and made a harsh sound. In the end, Lu Ming roared and tore with his hands. The sound wave was broken by Lu Ming. In the next moment, Lu Ming approached Xing Xinhe and threw out a punch. Dong! This punch landed on the eternal divine bell, and a terrifying force burst out. The eternal divine bell vibrated violently. Xing Xinhe's face changed, and his body was sent flying like a cannonball. Swoosh! Lu Ming took a step in the void, and the void vibrated. Lu Ming's figure dashed out and caught up with Hung Xinghe. Both his fists bombarded him like a storm. Shake! Xing Xinhe roared, and the eternal divine bell vibrated again. A terrifying sound wave rushed out. This time, the sound wave was even more terrifying. Ordinary Emperor-to-be would die no matter how many of them came. Boom! 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 Lu Ming's fists were covered with a layer of blood-red energy. It was indestructible, and there was nothing it could not break. It collided with the sound wave, and finally, the sound wave was destroyed. Then he threw out punch after punch on the eternal divine bell. Kacha! The eternal divine bell was Xing Xinhe's divine skill, formed by the eternal law. At this moment, cracks appeared on it. Moreover, Lu Ming's fist force continued to bombard the eternal divine bell. More and more cracks appeared on the eternal divine bell. In the end, it exploded with a bang. Xing Xinhe's face turned pale. He vomited blood and retreated. However, Lu Ming's speed was shocking. He caught up with Xing Xinhe in an instant and continued to attack violently. Xing Xinhe took out his emperor-level battle sword again and exerted all his strength to slash out sword light. However, he could not stop Lu Ming at all. At this moment, Lu Ming had borrowed the power of the third bloodline and was almost at his limit. Lu Ming could barely retain a trace of consciousness. If he continued to borrow the power of the third bloodline, Lu Ming would be drowned by endless murderous intent and become a killing puppet. It could be seen that Lu Ming's current power was very violent. In just a few moves, Xing Xinhe was sent flying and vomited blood. In the distance, Luo Tsangqiong was almost scared to death. What kind of monster was Lu Ming? He could even defeat Xing Xinhe. He was simply invincible. No, when we get out, I must ask grandfather to send experts to kill him. He must be killed. Chapter 1980. Luo Tsangqiong was shocked, not to mention the others, who were even more horrified. Hung Xinghe was defeated. He was not defeated by an elder, nor was he defeated by a group of people. He was defeated by another young man in a head-on confrontation. Hung Xinghe, the #1 genius of Yuan Mountain, was an invincible legend. Today his legend was shattered. Of course, it was accompanied by the birth of another legend. If what happened today were to spread out, the entire Yuan mountain would be shaken. In particular, the people of the Hung family seemed to have lost their faith and were terrified. Hung Xinghe was the representative of the Hung family and the pride of the Hung family. Since Hung Xinghe started cultivating, he had been undefeated among his peers. But today he was defeated. Huangling, Longchen, and the quasi-emperors on their side were ecstatic. Lu Ming defeated Hung Xinghe, and the situation could be completely reversed. He just borrowed some kind of secret technique. Who knows if Lu Ming will become a cripple or his strength will be greatly damaged after this secret technique. What's the use of a momentary victory? Luo Zhangqiang said very unhappily, and his voice spread throughout the place. Of course, he was getting further and further away from Lu Ming, and was ready to escape at any time. Luo Zhangqiang's words made many people's eyes flash. Indeed, Lu Ming's state was obviously due to the use of some kind of terrifying secret technique. Such a secret technique actually increased Lu Ming's strength by so much, and the aftereffects were absolutely shocking. It might be exaggerated to say that he would directly become a cripple, but if his origin was damaged, it would affect his future cultivation. In that case, Lu Ming would no longer be a match for Hung Xinghe. Some people who had a grudge against Lu Ming prayed in their hearts, hoping that this would be the case. At this moment, Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to the voices of the outside world. He continued to rush towards Hung Xinghe. At this moment, Lu Ming's killing intent was surging. He didn't care if Hung Xinghe was an eternal son or not. He would kill him first. Hung Xinghe's face was ugly, but he didn't dare to confront Lu Ming at all. He turned into a rainbow light and rushed towards the giant, blood-red bridge. Whoosh! Lu Ming followed closely behind, also rushing towards the giant, blood-red bridge. Could it be that the giant bridge has already reached the other side of the abyss? Hung Xinghe must know something. Now that he is rushing towards the bridge, he must have reached the other side and entered the 9th world. Let's go too. Charge! Others also rushed toward the giant bridge, including the quasi-emperors of the Hung family, the Daluo Heaven sect, and the Golden Crow clan. The originally intense chaotic battle also stopped at this moment. The black mass of people all surged onto the giant bridge and rushed forward. We're going too. Ouyang Wushuang, Huangling, Longchen, and the rest led a group of experts and rushed toward the giant bridge. After they entered the bridge, the great development pill furnace shrunk rapidly and flew towards Lu Ming. It flew into the space between Lu Ming's eyebrows and disappeared. The bridge was extremely long and wide, and it led straight into the depths of the mountain. The stellar river was at the forefront at an astonishing speed, but Lu Ming was still closing the distance between them. Soon after, they saw that the bridge was passing through a thick fog. Many people were shocked. Could it be that behind the fog was the 9th world? The 9th world could not be directly entered from the outside. It was said to be the world where the immortals lived. What was in it? Hung Xinghe was the first to rush into the fog, but Lu Ming followed closely behind. After Lu Ming rushed into the fog, he found that he had come to a void. Yes, a void. There was no land here, just like the starry sky of the universe. He was suspended in the void. Hung Xinghe was not far away, but at this time he seemed to be stunned and looked ahead in a daze. Lu Ming could not help but look over as well. At one glance, his heart trembled violently and he was stunned. In the void in front of him, there was a figure sitting there with his legs crossed. But the figure was too big and too majestic. This person was taller than any mountain. Just sitting there, he was like a planet in the vast universe. In front of him, people were as small as dust. But most importantly, this was a stone man. It was like an incomparably huge stone statue, but it was vivid and lifelike. This was a young man who looked to be in his 30s. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the void, but he gave off a peerless and unparalleled feeling. What shocked Lu Ming the most was that he had seen the appearance of this stone man before. Back then, 2 great emperors fought at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain. In the end, the The great emperor fell, and the heavenly emperor mountain changed. At that time, a figure condensed in the heavenly emperor mountain. He was in his 30s and looked to be the figure of the heavenly emperor. The stone man in front of him looked exactly the same as the figure that appeared at the heavenly emperor mountain. Could this be the statue of the heavenly emperor? Thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, people were constantly passing through the fog and appearing in this void. But when they saw the huge stone man, they were stunned and shocked. Heavenly Emperor, this is the Heavenly Emperor. A statue of the Heavenly Emperor? No, it's the body, the Heavenly Emperor's body. In the end, a great emperor of the Hung family could not hold back the shock in his heart and roared out. Everyone's heart was violently shaken and surged with stormy waves. The Heavenly Emperor's body? This was the Heavenly Emperor's body. Legend had it that the Heavenly Emperor had fallen in the distant past. Could this really be the body left behind after the Heavenly Emperor had fallen? It was highly possible. There were many ancient ruins in the world of the Lotus. Some places seemed to have suppressed terrifying creatures. If it was not the Heavenly Emperor, who could have done it? In the distant past, for some unknown reason, the Heavenly Emperor had suppressed some powerful creatures here and died. His body was left here, sitting in the ninth world. No wonder one could not enter the ninth world directly. No wonder there were legends in other worlds that the ninth world was inhabited by immortals. Immortals were the Heavenly Emperor, and Lu Ming thought of more. He thought of that Heavenly Emperor sword, which was also a stone sword. The sword was made of stone, and now this huge body was also made of stone. What was the connection between them? Could it really be the Heavenly Emperor's body? Could it be that the Heavenly Emperor was not a human, but a strange life form? At this moment, the eyes of countless people burst out with blazing flames. That was the fire of greed. If this huge stone man was really the Heavenly Emperor's body, then its value was unimaginable. That was the Heavenly Emperor. Now, the Heavenly Emperor was simply a legend, and the great emperors were the peak powerhouses. A great emperor could almost dominate a region, be invincible and control the great Tao. As for the Heavenly Emperor, it was even more unimaginable. Legend had it that the Heavenly Emperor was almost the same as the Heavenly Tao. Moreover, the Great Tribulation did not affect the Heavenly Emperor, and he was truly immortal. When one became a Heavenly Emperor, there would be no great tribulation of heaven and earth, and they would truly live as long as heaven and earth. Such a person was unimaginably strong. The value of the body left behind by such a person could be imagined. Regardless of whether it was true or not, it could not be missed. Whoosh! Chapter 1981. The Heavenly Emperor's physical body was too shocking and tempting. Regardless of whether it was real or not, they had to give it a try. Even a piece of the Heavenly Emperor's body would be priceless. If they brought it out, even martial emperors would be envious. One figure after another charged forward. The Heavenly Emperor's physical body is mine. Whoever touches it will die. Xing, he shouted as he turned into a beam of sword light and slashed out. Pooh, pooh. As the sword light slashed down, blood splattered everywhere. Heads flew out one after another. In an instant, more than 10 quasi-emperors were killed by Xing He. The difference between an ordinary quasi-emperor and a stellar river was too great. They would be killed in an instant, unable to resist at all. The river of laws was easily sliced apart. The other quasi-emperors were shocked and flew far away. Xing, he was too domineering. Xing He, the battle between us is not over yet. Let's continue. Lu Ming's blood-red hair fluttered as killing intent surged. His eyes were blood-red as he stepped toward Xing He. Aside from those who were close to Lu Ming, no one dared to step within a certain range of him. When Xing He saw Lu Ming coming over, his expression turned unsightly. He turned into a beam of light and charged towards the huge stone man. Form a formation and block him with the Emperor weapon. Xing He's voice rang out. The quasi-emperors of the Hung clan moved. Their figures flickered as they formed a mysterious formation. Some of them had emperor weapons, so they took them out. Clearly, quasi-emperors could not bring out the full power of emperor weapons. However, when many of them gathered together and formed a formation, the power was very terrifying. Whoosh! Whoosh! Beams of sword qi tore through the air towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming punched out a few times, causing the void to tremble and shattering those sword qi. However, following that, more sword qi slashed towards him. Most of the people of the Hung clan cultivated the eternal spring law, which emphasized on continuous attacks. Boundless sword qi continuously blasted towards Lu Ming, blocking Lu Ming's path. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, he would not be able to charge out in a short time. Meanwhile, he was rapidly approaching the stone man. He was very fast, and the others were lagging behind. Whoosh! A beam of death light slashed out violently, blocking a large amount of sword qi. Lu Ming, you go after the stellar river. I'll block them for you here. Death blade stepped through the air, and the curtain of death enveloped the area, blocking a large area of sword light. Lu Ming glanced at Death Blade with his blood-red eyes. Without saying anything, he shot up into the sky and turned into a beam of blood-red light as he chased after Death Blade. They saw that the stone golem didn't seem to be far from them, but as they flew, they knew that they were very far from it. That was because the stone golem was simply too big. In the void, streaks of rainbow light flew towards the giant stone man like shooting stars. Xinghe was far in the lead, but Lu Ming was in hot pursuit, slowly closing in. This flight lasted for half an hour. With their speed, they flew for half an hour. It was easy to imagine how far the distance was. At this moment, they finally approached the giant stone man. By then, Lu Ming and Stellar River had already left the rest far behind. They were far ahead of the rest. Lu Ming had already closed in on Stellar River. Damn it! What secret technique is this guy using? It hasn't disappeared yet. He roared in his heart. Lu Ming's body was covered in blood-red light, and his aura was still strong. Ordinary secret techniques wouldn't be able to sustain such a powerful battle prowess for so long. But now Lu Ming seemed to be fine. He unleashed all his strength and rushed towards the giant stone man. He had a feeling that the blood in his body was boiling, as if he was close to the giant stone man. It was as if the stone man was related to him by blood. It must be the ancestor of the Hung family, it must be. He roared in his heart. The closer he got to the giant stone man, the stronger his feeling became. He felt that as long as he flew to the stone man, he would be able to get the stone man. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes revealed a look of surprise, because in his sea of consciousness, the stone sword, which was the sword of the Heavenly Emperor, was constantly vibrating and buzzing. It seemed to be resonating with the stone man. The stone sword, maybe it really is the sword of the Heavenly Emperor, the sword of the stone man. A thought flashed in Lu Ming's mind, but he didn't slow down and gradually approached Xinghe. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch, and a terrifying fist light blasted toward Xinghe. Eternal Divine Bell! He shouted and unleashed all his strength, and another Eternal Divine Bell enveloped him. The Eternal Divine Bell vibrated, and a terrifying sound wave rushed towards Lu Ming, but it was broken by Lu Ming's punch. Clang! Clang! He flew towards the stone man while vibrating the Eternal Divine Bell. The terrifying sound wave turned into various fierce attacks and rushed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's attack was simple. He used the hell-suppressing heaven skill and punched out to break the sound wave and slowly approached Xinghe. The two fought while flying, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 10 blows. Boom! Boom! A few fist lights broke through Xinghe's sound wave and bombarded Xinghe's Eternal Divine Bell, causing it to vibrate and cracks to appear on it. Xinghe's face turned ugly, and he gritted his teeth and rushed towards the stone man. In the past, no one in the same generation could break his Eternal Divine Bell, but today it was broken by Lu Ming. When I become a boundary emperor, I will definitely kill you. Xing he roared in his heart, and he was accidentally punched again. His body trembled, and he almost vomited blood. At this moment, they were very close to the stone man. After getting closer, they realized that the stone man was really too big and majestic. They were probably only the size of a strand of the stone man's hair. Right at this moment, a shocking scene appeared. The stone golem suddenly opened its eyes. This scene made the hearts of Lu Ming, Xing He, and the others jump. The stone man opened his eyes. Was the heavenly emperor not dead? If that was true, it would be a big deal. The stone man opened his eyes, only to see that his 2 eyeballs were like 2 abysses, pitch black. The next moment, 2 rays of light shot out of the stone man's eyes, condensing into a figure in front of Lu Ming and Xing He, wearing a long robe unparalleled in style, around 30 years old, with a kind of domineering spirit. Wasn't it the image of the heavenly emperor? At this moment, everyone seemed to have forgotten to breathe. Dumbfounded, the heavenly emperor was really not dead. Han family descendant pays respect to the heavenly emperor, patriarch. Xing Xingha suppressed the shock on his face and bowed. Junior Lu Ming pays respect to the heavenly emperor. Lu Ming also cupped his fists and bowed. No matter what, the heavenly emperor was a senior expert, so it was normal to bow. Greetings to the heavenly emperor. The others also bowed to the heavenly emperor from afar. The heavenly emperor swept his gaze across everyone and said, "No need to be so polite, I've already fallen. What's left now is merely a wisp of imprint, like a candle in the wind, that can be extinguished at any time." These words made people's hearts tremble greatly.